See, when we New Orleans, or Wobs, as some folks like to call us, when we start saying we believe in Jesus Christ, and they say, y'all don't believe in the same Jesus Christ we do, we say, you're right. You're very true. The Jesus Christ you believe in can't be found. And that's why you still are believing in him. The Jesus Christ we're talking about has been found. If you find the Father, you will find the Son. You follow that? You're right. We may not be talking about the same Jesus. We're not talking about a little Jewish boy 2,000 years ago. You're right. We're talking about the one that's on the wall. Like Daniel said, the writing is on the wall. We're talking about the one you can see, hear, taste, smell, and feel. We're talking about the Jesus that y'all are now having to bear witness to. We're talking about God the Father, God the Son, and the Blessed Mother, but they are found, no longer living in a mystery. Otherwise, the statement in the Bible, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free, is bull. Because to know the truth, I'm not working on belief or faith. You see what day and time we're in? Oh, by the way, that's another thing they don't like. They don't like when we use the word God. So they say, no, they believe in more than one God. And then they say Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. And then they say, but they're all one. You know, like an egg. There's the shell, there, right? There's the baby, and there's the yolk. See? All three in one. I say, and becoming. And what are they becoming? That's not the finished product. The egg is not the finished product. The egg is a process going forward to becoming something. So you're telling me God is incomplete in the Trinity and he's in the process of going to become something? What is it he's becoming? Where is he going? But in ancient Egypt, we no longer have to look for the mystery. We no longer have to be banging on doors and hoping that the truth is behind them. They all prayed and screamed and cheered and hoped that their form of Jesus Christ would show up in the year 2000. They were set. They were happy. You remember them? On all television, Jesus is coming now. We was like, yeah, right. Jesus was coming by the year 2000. You know who ended up coming? Osiris. He did come because the Egyptians dug him up and found his body. It's not a myth no more. He did come. How are they going to deal with that? And if he came, who else came? Huh? Isis came. Oh, Isis. And if Isis came, who else came? Horus. And if that's true, then the story of Tehuti being there, Satukh being there, all of these other men and all these other people that are on the walls in Egypt that they kept telling us were paganistic myths are becoming real. Can we deal with our own truth? Or do we continue to live in their lives just because we're adjusted to it? Just because it feels comfortable to us? Are we willing to stand up and face the facts and tell people we found Christ, which was being interpreted the Messiah? We found a man who you had us worshiping, but you had us worship him in what? In your image. And we were warned in the book of Revelations. They described the devil to us. You know how you know they described the devil to you? Because when they describe Christ to us, and Christ is the Son of God, check it out now. They describe Christ, right? What'd they say? Your hair like lamb's wool? They describe someone who's colored. So if he's the Son of God, and that's his description, I don't have to ask you for the description of the devil. Because I know the devil is going to be the opposite description of God. I don't have to ask you what the devil look like. I got the devil here and God here. Do I have to look in that direction if I see God? No. You may not like to hear white people are the devil. Especially when you're in a country ruled by white people for a little while. We may not want to digest that. That's kind of frightening whenever you sheriff, cop, police, teacher, fireman, judge, lawyer, and most people with money are all Caucasian. Now that don't mean all Caucasians are devils now. Because we got some black devils, let's be real. Must I go there? Because you know, every now and then you start talking about Caucasian being devil. Black people start thinking that they ain't devils. I know a whole bunch of nigga devils now. Devil is doing his work, y'all, 24 hours a day, fighting our families amongst us. That's why Jesus said what? Who betrayed Christ? His own. They may have betrayed him to the Romans, but they were his own Jewish people who came to him, so-called Levite priests, and said, you know, we don't stone you for the fact that you say this. We stone you for the blasphemy that you say you're the Son of God. Right in St. John, Jesus answered and said, well, isn't that written in the law, all you the children of God? Isn't that not in the Torah? Isn't that not in the book of Psalms? Didn't David get this? Didn't it say in the law, all you the children of God, what? Ilion El in Hebrew. Throws me off in English. Right? You may be a God, but you are a son and daughter of the Most High. That's God's way of saying, you can be as cocky as you want to be, but don't start thinking you're me, because I will, push you down the stairs a couple of times. God has a way of pulling the rug up from under you when you get a little too cocky. Right now, Muslims go to Mecca and they're all getting this God complex. Everywhere they go, there's a plague. There's a disease. There's something that collapses. Why? You know why? Because them Muslims are out there taking God's laws in their own hands and justifying terrorism and saying Allah said do this. Allah said do that. Allah makes rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes. He don't need you blowing up no buildings. If Allah is God, he has the power to blow up a building if he wants, don't you think? But a whole bunch of guys are sitting around who are bored after they done read the Quran and fumbled through the Hadith, ate a couple of dates. I know, I've been in them type of circles in the East. They ain't got nothing else to do. They done heard the Quran everywhere it can be recited, in every direction you can take it, and they are bored. The real Arab is all wrapped up in the Quran, and he's waiting for fire and brimstone to come and him going to heaven and get black-eyed maidens. That's all he's thinking about. But there's another group that are bored, and they take Allah's job into their own hands and say, I have the right to do this. That's what's going on in Israel right now. The Jews want Solomon's temple. The Muslims say, we call it Masjid al-Aqsa, and it's ours. The Jews said, no, if the Quran says that it came from the Torah or the Old Testament and the Injil, the Revelation, the Evangel, then this is really our building. Correct? You hear the conversation? And people are getting blown up and killed because of that. You know where the mistake comes in? It doesn't belong to Muslims or Jews. It's Baytullah. It's supposed to be God's house. That's where the problem's coming in. You're fighting over God's house. You're claiming that this holy temple in Jerusalem is God's temple, but the Jews say, no, it's our temple. Muslims go, no, it's not. It's, and the Christians are afraid. They in there too. They ain't strong enough in Jerusalem to say, no, they really get hurt. They're saying, they're going, and now there's people over there blowing each other up and killing each other. You follow? Only because they're dealing with faith. Only because they're dealing with belief. Because they haven't sat down at a table together and said, let's go through the scriptures and see. First, let's see if the scriptures are true. These people are killing each other over faith and belief. And if you came to them with the truth, they would panic. That's why I wrote that book, Jesus Found in Egypt. I want to see how they get around it. You know me, I write books just to see what happens. You know what I mean? I just write a book, let me see, 360 questions to ask the Muslims. I just want to see if they can answer. And it says 360 questions a day. And the Israelites over here going, where's our book? Anybody else want a book? We got one for you. You can ask anybody 360 questions. Whether or not they can answer what's important. And the answers are coming out of nature. The truth is manifesting itself in front of us. But we're afraid. Tamahus, another word for Caucasians, have Egypt on television every week. They're on their third mummy movie. Just last week they were talking about the other one, with the Prince of Egypt. They did Cleopatra over 4 times in the last 5 years. If you check import, they got more Egyptian statues. You go to any bookstore, take a major bookstore like Borders, and go into the Egyptian section. And you find hundreds of books on Egypt. Every white person in the world is writing about us. And they see them noses. They see them lips, they definitely can't miss Uncle Hunting's lips. They see them big old noses, they see Mentu-Hotep's black skin. When they cracked open, took Uncle Almond's tomb, they saw two black guys standing like this. They wasn't brown, they wasn't beige, they were Bo-Lack. That's B-O-Lack. So we have two of them, we made sure we put it right there in front of the Bo-Lack pyramid. So when you walk around, every time you walk around, you go, two niggas. And I do that because I want you to know that every time a white person walks by and sees the two statues, they go, two niggas. And they'll spend their last dollar going on vacation to Egypt. Go to France. Go to Germany. Go to Sweden, which is near Germany. Go where else? Holland. Where else they come from? Where else can they go? Denmark. Where else they came from? Where else? Norway. Hell. Where else? Go to... Why are so many white folks in Egypt? I went to the university in Egypt, in Cairo, and you can see busloads of them. Busloads of old little chickens coming to the hotels, walking around the pyramids, looking in the pyramids, seeing your face there, saying, my God, which is not their God, but my God, look. Then go down, then they make the gravest mistake. They get on a boat and they float down to Aswan. When they get down to Aswan, they might as well be in Harlem. I'm saying the only difference is the language. The body language is the same. You see Nubians, but you see them by the hundreds all over Egypt. Why are they there? Because they want to know the truth. They want to see it for themselves. They heard about it their whole life. They heard that the niggas in America are the lost tribe. That y'all are the original Hebrews. That y'all are the original Ishmaelites. The original Israelites. All them tribes they mentioned in the Bible and some more. You say, well, how can we be all of that? Look around here and look at all the different faces. Look at all the different shaped eyes and noses. Someone meticulously went out and started grabbing people from the Ashanti, from the Mendinga, from the Yoruba, from the Hausa, from the Dongala, from the Jaliya, from the Sharia. I can just go on. They picked a whole bunch of us. Some got wavy hair, some got nappy hair, some got that hair that you can't call nappy because you don't know what it is, it just sits there. I got a son with hair like that. It's like, you sure this is hair? It's just, you can't comb it, you can't do nothing. Perm just leave, perm just says, no, I want nothing to do with this. You ever see people with hair like that where each knot look like they screwed it in one by one? And then, I don't know what tribe after they came, I ain't seen them. The nappy headites or something, I don't know. But we have people with every texture hair, every shaped nose, every color eye. That's because some of y'all are Israelites, some of y'all are Ishmaelites, some of y'all are Nubians from Egypt, some of y'all was brought here from the Congo, some of y'all from Kenya, some of y'all from Uganda, some of y'all are Ethiopians. Y'all are made up of all them tribes. If you, let's say, scan through a book throughout Africa, you start seeing people like, shoot, they go Ralph. Am I lying? You be like, they look like Ralph. You walk up and say, what's up, Ralph? We are a great people. I ain't gotta keep pumping this in your head. You are those African tribes. You always were Yoruba. Islam is something that they gave you. Islam is simple silliness. I was born a Muslim. It's silliness. It don't make no sense when you get right down to it. But in its pristine purity, before it got adulterated by opinions and philosophies and hadiths and traditions and customs, was beautiful. Because it said a state of peace. But you know what it said in the Quran? Muslims greet each other with the statement, Assalamu alaikum fi jannah. Fi jannah. In Arabic, that means in paradise. That's when they say Assalamu alaikum. That's what the Quran says. It never says that a Muslim should greet another Muslim on the streets on earth and say Assalamu alaikum. If any Muslims who are ex-Muslims or still Muslims know that I'm telling you the truth. It says the place is called, in paradise, it says Darul Islam. Darul Islam. Dar means the abode or place of peace. You see what I'm saying? And that was in heaven, not on earth. Allah doesn't expect for us to have happiness on earth. You understand me? And Jesus answered him like this: blessed are the, for they shall be called. Talking in the future. Jesus spoke about Muslims in the future. Blessed are the peacemakers. They make it look like Jesus Christ is coming with the very end, and that's not true, because he says in St. John's, I'm going to send another comforter. They spoke about a comforter coming, a spirit of truth, right, after Jesus. But then Rasulullah Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam came, Muhammad did, as a comforter. But Muslims thought it was over then. You know what happened? The disciples of Muhammad gathered with him in Surah Al-Baqarah, 2nd chapter, 214 verse, and they asked him, Mata Nasrullahi ya Rasulullah? Mata Nasrullahi? When is the Nasrullah coming? And he says, Ila Nasrullahi qariban. Surely the help from Allah is near. Qareeb in Arabic for coming soon. Now here Muhammad is here on earth. They call him the last prophet, the seal of the prophets. You with me? Yet when his disciples asked him in the 2nd chapter, 214 verse, when, tell us Muhammad, when is the help coming? Muhammad's answer is, surely the help is coming soon. Ain't that deep? And he named the help. He said, Inna Nasrullah, Inna Nasrullahi Qareeban, the Nasrullah. Then as you go through the Quran and you ask a Muslim, what is the word for Christians in the Quran? They say Nasr. Jews are called Yahudi. Then there's Sabians. But the Christians are called Nasr. And in the Holy Quran, right, 61:14, they called Jesus' disciples, what? They said Nasrullahi. Jesus said, men, Nasri, who are my helpers? They said, Inna Nasr, Inna Nasrullahi. Surely we are Allah's helpers. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kunu ansarullah. So, all you who are believers or faithful or true or worshippers of Amun, become Ansarullah. They didn't leave Amun out of the New Testament, you know. Amun followed faith through the whole New Testament, and Jesus in Revelation chapter 3 verse 14, right, says what? Amun, the faithful, the true witness, the deity that witnessed the beginning of creation of God, it says, right in your Bible, the book of Revelations. That the deity called Amen, and it's in a noun form. It's not to be used as a verb or a transit. It's a noun. They said Amen, the faithful witness, the beginning of the creation of God. This person or this being called the Amen in Revelations witnessed Jesus' birth. The creation of God. And Jesus was God in flesh according to the Quran. Say what? According to the Quran, Jesus was God in flesh because the Quran refers to Jesus as Kalimullah. Refers to Jesus as Ruhullah. Ruhu in Arabic means the wind, from reh, the breath, the soul. Calls Jesus the Ruhullah. Calls him Kalimullah. Kalimullah means the very words that come out of my mouth. Remember it said he should not speak of himself, but only that which he hears shall he speak. He should glorify my name. Call Jesus in the Quran the words of Allah, the soul of Allah. Said that Jesus spoke while he was yet in a cradle. He was an infant. He hadn't mastered the art of vocalizing. He hasn't mastered the art of speaking yet because he was still in the cradle. Yet he held conversation. The Quran tells you how that happened by saying Jesus was the Spirit of Allah and the Word of Allah. That means God's Spirit was in that child, and that child was speaking on behalf of God. Otherwise, no little infant in no cradle can talk. Am I right? Will a Muslim bear witness to that fact? No. They will wrestle with that all day. For it's right there in front of you, in Arabic. But if you read the English translation of the Quran, and you didn't learn the Arabic language, or it's not your mother tongue, you'll never see it. And that's why they come to America and give them Yusuf Ali, Maulana Muhammad Ali, Pickthall, Dagwood. And they could have spent the years that they were Muslims. The Arabs could have built universities with all the kind of money they have and made sure every American Muslim was fluent in Arabic. You know what their greatest fear is? One day somebody's going to do an online Quran the way they did an online Bible. Understand? Where you can look at every word and see its true meaning. Because the moment people can analyze the Quran like that, that's the end of Islam as they know it. None of the practices that they implicate today would show up. Nowhere in the Quran does it tell you to do tashahhud, to sit on the floor and point your finger like this. It's not there. Nowhere in the Quran that says put your fingers behind your ears. It's not there. Quran doesn't say pray 5 times a day. Quran says pray 7 times. And how can you pray 5 times a day and make Salatul Isha? Listen again before you question. How can you be praying 5 times a day and make Salatul Asr? What is Salatul Asr? That's the night prayer. So there's not 5 prayers daily. You know what I'm saying? Now how many prayers are there daily? First, let's establish daily. Every time I talk to y'all, I like to tell y'all something you never heard before. Ain't that what I do? Let me tell you something you never heard before. Right? Sunday. Say Sunday. That means sun and day. Right? What's Monday? But the sun is still shining. Let's do it again. Let's say it again. Sunday. You with me? Got it? And that means the day as the sun shines during the... Now we come to Monday's moon day. How can you have moon day? It's moon what? Right. Now, let's go to the next one. Now we got Tuesday. Now what is Tuesday really? No, Tuesday is really Sunday. Just as Monday is really. And any day that the sun is shining is called Sunday. Now why did they trick us? You know why they trick us? Because they got us to the point where we believe anything they say and we don't critique it. We haven't stopped. See, now that I said it, you go, that's deep. Some niggas are saying, I knew that all the world. I don't mind y'all, it's cool. It's all right, it's all right. But the deep thing is, just think about what they did to you. You've been walking around, I'll see you Monday morning. Right? No, better yet, meet me Monday night. Meet me Monday night? Say Monday night. Ain't something wrong with that in right knowledge? How can you have a Monday night? Is there a such thing as Sunday night? No. Once it becomes night, it's no longer sun. So now we have to change everything in our vernacular around and say stuff like Sunday and sun, right? What? Mon night is in the morning. Because the moon is out. So if it's Mon, the moon is there. I don't care if the sun is shining or not. If you call it Mon, the moon is there. The sun and the moon can't shine at the same time according to them. Right? So it's moon night, which means it don't make no sense, so we got to get rid of it. Now we done lost a whole period of time. If I didn't say that, y'all were going to say a whole day. That's how well the program, you know what I'm saying? Watch, you have lost a whole, see how you instinctively want to go whole? That's how you know the spell was in there. Are you with that? All right, now if that happens with days, how do weeks become weaker than days if there's more time in a week than there's in a day? Or better yet, shouldn't the second be the week? Because at least with a second you get another chance. So shouldn't it really be weeks make up a minute. Now, you say, oh no, you're looking at me like, is he misspelling week? Is he mistaking W-E-E-K with W-E-A? Listen, phonetics are the same. The people speak first or write first. Right, so they had to figure out that didn't make no sense and create a second word. You understand? That's why there's wake. You hear how wake sounds? Wake me. Wake me up. Shake me. You see what they did? They tied in tones that entrap us. I'm going to tell you, Christ, crisis, look how close that is. You see the entrapment in the mind? Christ and crisis. These are all part of a plot that enslaved us mentally and made it capable for them to just about say anything over the media and control the way we feel about what we hear. You understand what I'm saying? As they talk to us, because they have control of phonetics. In other words, they put letters to match phonetics to create tones, which have various meanings. Let's take a word that can have various meanings and has the same basic phonetical sound. Even though people could get technical and say, well, bear, B-E-E-R, and bear to be bare naked, and the bear that attacks you, actually on all different words, right? But who speaks that clear? Who actually really distinguishes when they're talking? And don't say y'all, because y'all niggas say, I'm gonna see you later. And ain't no word I'm in the dictionary. Where you going? Where you going, man? Where you going? What's your name is? We didn't like is, so we changed it to B. What's your name be? Who he? He's a nigga with you. Who he? Yeah, what you know? Yeah, who that? Who that? Who that is? That's it. Who that is? What you say? What you say? What's what you say? What you say? But that's all done purposely. Tones. Because that's why you can listen to certain music and it can make you feel sad. If I put on some calypso, everybody gets a certain feeling. If I put on James Brown, you could call James Brown country. And you could be city slick nigga. But James Brown will make a city slick nigga pat his foot. Something about the magic of James Brown's rhythms that make you start doing it. Certain musicians got magic. And they can get on out. Michael Jackson, I mean, for whatever he turned out to be, he had beats that I don't care who you are, you can say, I don't like him, you know, I don't like what he did to himself. He cut off his nose and some nigga with a permit saying, he cut off his nose and he bleached out his skin and they got 3 holes in their ears up here. Ain't no reason for him to do that. Why you can say that there, but when his music starts playing, like Billie Jean, you be thinking like, am I lying? Or is that the truth? That tells you there's some magic in music. That means there's some magic in tone. And that's why there's a concentrated effort to remove our languages from us and have us speaking English. They don't want nobody who speaks Spanish speaking Spanish. They don't want no Latin speaking people because there's tones in the language. Not the way we're speaking it in Harlem, where we done mixed in English, but the way our grandparents spoke it. And most of the kids couldn't understand it. So I had relatives that spoke Portuguese, I didn't understand what the hell they was talking about. And they was just going like this, okay, yeah. Only time I worried when the hand went up. No, not when the hand went up. When the hand was coming down. When the hand was up, I still could get out of the way. There's a concentrated effort. That's why there's so much being put into Nawapic. There's a concentrated effort for you to eliminate, what nationality are you? American. What's your nationality? You American? What's your nationality? Oh, you American? I ain't gonna ask you that. What nationality are you? British? Egyptian. That's another thing. We have to stop being everything but Nuwapians. That is our nationality. We're not Trinidadians. We're not Cubans. We're not Dominicans. We're not British. We're Nuwapians. You know why that's important? Because we hold the secret to its meaning. Sit with me for a minute. We hold the secret to its meaning.
We do indeed hold the secret to its meaning. Welcome everybody to another Wu-Sabat Outformation class out of the UK, brought to you by United Sabians Worldwide, and locally All Eyes in Egypt, Midlands and the North. That was a class called No Time Span by Dr. York that you were listening to while waiting for this topic class to commence. So just bear with me one sec. Right, yeah, so welcome everybody. Yeah, we're doing a class today, or continuation of a series of classes called I Was There, Which Is Here, based upon that Paa Taraq that you see here on the screen. And we're doing part one, so covering part one of the class at the moment. We're on part 5 of covering part 1. Yeah, so we're going to continue with that. If you've not been able to, well, this is your first time joining us, welcome. My name is Nabab Cackney Hess. I'm one of the student teachers of the Master Teacher under an organisation called Paa Taraq, or Student Teachers Association. And previous parts of this class, you can find them on our YouTube channel. So just do a search, All Eyes in Egypt, Midlands and the North, and you'll be able to find our channel there. Obviously, whatever, like, comment, subscribe, as they fashionably say on YouTube, and you'll be able to find parts 1, 2, 3 on there. 4 will be on there later this week. Or alternatively, you can find the live versions of those classes on our Facebook page of the same name, All Eyes in Egypt. As you can see there, mn/facebook.com. Welcome to those joining us on Facebook Live. If you do want the full interactive experience, i.e. being able to ask questions live, then, and you've not registered before, then by all means feel free to use the link, class 1 link, in the chat to join us on Zoom. But if you want to stay on Facebook Live, that's fine. Any questions in there will be picked up after the class or over the following week. Okay, right, just bear with me one moment. Okay, so what we're going to do is just open the class with a positive expression, referred to as Paa Taraq in the Sabian culture. United Sabians Worldwide, and part of our culture, obviously, we have our own language, which was just being touched upon there by the Master Teacher, Dr. York, within that class, referred to as Sabaic. Yeah, we've been known by many names, Nuwapian, and Nuwapic was the name for our language, but now we're known as Sabians, or Musbatu in our language. And so Sabaic or Misbatia is the language that we speak. So we're going to start off the class in positive fashion, connecting ourselves with natural nature, so that you and all those participating in this class today have a positive experience. So we're going to do that in the Sabaic language, and then translate into English for full and proper understanding. So nothing to be fearful of. Take it in. And if you know it already, feel free to say it along with me. Okay, just bear with me. I'm just going to change the music out. Barua, Nabab Natar Muktar, Na Ut Mugdad Baded Pata, Na Ut Muklas Baded Yanun, Paa Taraq, Anuki Jawef Pa Ashuk Empa Pa Ut, Wu Kalal Ashuk Kawun Jawef Naya, Anuki kasam un empapa ut. Wu papa ut kawun kasam un emneya. Anuki wahu ameh papa ut. Wu papa ut kawun wahu ameh neya. Nakuk kadur naju ameh kasam un empapa ut. Khabub ameh mushahas Nakuk kadur kawan kalel pafef. Nakuk arud jawef pa ut. Ameh waseh ameh aradni. Kawun layei bakoy jawef pa ut. Anuki abed biye nafashni. Pa ut kawun anuki. Pa ut kadur nakuk kadur. Pa ut amul nakuk amul. Okay, so we said in Sabbaic and translated into English, holy, 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 Master, Overseer, Almighty, no God except Ptah, no Savior except Yanun. The affirmation. I am inside the divine love of the all-expanding, and all divine love is inside me. I am a part of the all-expanding, and the all-expanding is a part of me. I am one as the all-expanding, and the all-expanding is one as me. I can succeed as a part of the all-expanding and fail as an individual person. I can be all that I wish in the all-expanding, as long as my wish is to stay in the all-expanding. I am never by myself. The all-expanding is, I am. The all-expanding can, I can. The all-expanding does, I do. And so that is a positive expression, referred to as Paa Taraq, the affirmation, form of obviously positive thinking. And touching in the same in previous times, maybe going into that in a bit more detail as to expanding what it's meaning. But it's talking about us, obviously, the importance of existence. You understand? And obviously us being a part of existence, or what makes up existence as Nagaru, Negroid people, particularly on this planet. And so in order for things to grow, you have to exist first. Do you understand? And so the environment that allows that to be possible, obviously we refer to that as Pa'ut, or the all expanding. Okay, if you just joined us on the Zoom platform for the first time, a quick induction into that. So if you need to adjust your audio settings for any reason, or something not coming through clearly, you need to make some adjustments, then those settings on your left hand side of your panel. We have a chat area, so if you want to change the default there to select everyone. If you've got feedback, etc., feel free to express yourself within the chat area. Obviously, please be respectful to all participating, but feel free to express yourself in the chat. So anything there's not questions, if you can place that in the chat, that would be fantastic for us for today. It's an interactive session today, so it is a class. Feel free to ask questions, please, if you do not understand something, or something's not clear, or you just got a question about what's being taught today. There's two ways to do that. So first one is to click the raise your hand button, and then you can come through live and ask your question directly to myself. You'll see a message appear on your screen, and simply unmute yourself, and then you'll be able to come through live and ask your question. If you've dialed in today and not joined us by way of the internet, then it's *9 to raise your hand on your phone, and then *6 to unmute yourself once prompted. You will have the ability, once we give you that permission, to unmute yourself and mute yourself back at will. So if you wouldn't mind just keeping yourself on mute once you've asked your question or finished your interaction, as to not disturb the rest of the call with any background noise. If you don't want to come through live, then again, press the Q&A button, and then you can type your question into the chat, and then the moderator will ask that question on your behalf. Or if they're not on, I'll pick up the question and read it out for everybody, and then do my best to answer your question in the best way I can. So, not going to run the poll today. Just checking in and make sure the sound is, I'm coming through clearly. So if there is any issues, if you can just drop a note in the chat for me. If there is any issue, yeah, drop a note in the chat for me if there's any problems with the sound. I'm not coming through clearly or music's too loud, anything of that nature, just let us know. And if you can't see the visuals, then also just feedback in the chat and let us know, and then we'll make the appropriate adjustments. Excuse me. Quick introduction, in terms of relating to who we are. So as I said, we're United Sabians worldwide. The sort of founder of our organisation and the person who brought this spiritual science to us that we refer to in our culture as Wu-Sabat, and the spiritual science of the Negro or Nagaru. It's keeping it simple, dealing with factual information. In spirituality in this day and time is factual information, brought to us by Dr. Malachi KZ York, also known to us as Paa Taraq, and he was born physically in Takoradi, Ghana in West Africa, June 26, 1945, to a sacred feminine, very important sacred feminine, by the name of Mary Abba Akran York, known to us as Fatima. She was born March 10th, 1929, and has now crossed over or transitioned to the other side. And she had a number of different honoured positions within the tribe, and this is one shown in our clan mother attire, but that's not a title that we no longer reference. Going back, as I say, as we walk back to who we are, we drop that sort of Native American identity of ourselves as we walk back to the origin of us, obviously, which is from this planet, more so in South Africa, and then obviously in and beyond the stars, and particularly Orion and Sirius star constellation. Moreover, now the symbols here always sort of make reference to it for those not familiar with, I suppose, ancient Tamarean or ancient Egyptian culture, where they say like Kadem Muhmat, Kadem Mahmat, which means ancient Egyptian in Sabaik, or if we said Kadem Muhmatu, yeah, we're saying the actual people. So the first part, what I just said, was the place. The second part would refer to the people, and one of the important parts of our culture was the lotus flower, associated with the sacred feminine or the females, and a symbol of regeneration. Understood? So yeah, you see her here as one of our ancestors. So more importantly, we're very clear that even though we teach a lot of different stuff, and saying what we absolutely teach as foundation is that you as a person are connected. Of course, you are the result of your mother and father, they the result of their mother and father, and so on and so forth, back to 4 generations. You understand? This we know, this we can prove, and any connection to any higher ancestors, understood, or higher forces will always be through our blood relatives. Do you understand? Because that what we know, and then they will make the connection to anything outside or further to that. You understand? So yes, we have a hierarchical system as it relates to what people may describe today as our divinity. However, you understand, the foundation of that is your first deity or of understanding that we know is your parents. You understand? Because obviously, if that sperm and ovum doesn't come together, you do not exist. You understand? As you, in the current physical form of you, as well as being a physical and an etheric being in the same personage, let's say, for lack of a better word. His sacred masculine, his father, Al-Hadi Abdul Rahman Al-Mahdi, birthed 1922, and then unfortunately was assassinated, in fact, in 1970. And lineage, say, the Ghanaian heritage is from his mother's side, and then what would be known today, or what would be known today as Ghanaian, and today on the Sudanese side is on his father's side, where he gets the Sudanese heritage from, a very famous family. Again, his grandfather Sayyid Abdul Rahman Al Mahdi and then great grandfather, even more famous, world famous, one would say, as Muhammad Ahmad Al Mahdi, 1845, 1885, disappeared, as it's recorded. A master spiritualist, yeah, very significant and powerful individual. So yeah, who really had the sort of oneness and understanding, was at one with his physical and his divinity, but was able to use the power of the forces of nature in order to defend his people. He himself is not Sudanese, excuse me, but rather today we would say ancient Egyptian, from Napata and Meroe, understood obviously from the Dongolawi, the Fuzzy tribes in that regard. But the ancient Egyptians, pre-dynastic as they would be referred to as today, that's really his true lineage or origin. And it's a very important individual known as the Mahdi, which means the guide. But the Islamic world today doesn't recognize this individual in that way, simply because of the racism that exists, unfortunately. The racism being a cancer within the sort of human race, isn't it? No one wins a race in racism. So I'm talking about wrong racism. Yeah, so because he doesn't look like how they perceive one of their religion to be and their lineage, they don't recognize him in that way. But the kind of Western world has made movies about this individual, so they know who he is, and his works speak for themselves, do you understand? Because the British and the Turkish army who he drove out of Africa had a lot of highly advanced weaponry, but they were able to defeat them, so drive them out of Africa when they tried to, say, invade and take over Sudan at that time. Now, so this is the master teacher, known as at that time an Islamic degree, and even today, even under the Nubian nation, as Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi, is in age 25. And let's say he talks about in and of himself, in ancient Egypt, we referred to this position as an Amun Nabab Raya Akhtar. The Hindus referred to this position as avatar, in Islamic degree, Ila Mutajasid. And this is a being who in houses, as you know, an avatar, in houses, or as a vehicle or vessel that allows our ancestors to speak through him, to convey information that we ourselves need to know in this day and time, to transform us from men and women back into deities again, you understand, or supreme beings, as we once were. 720, symbolically speaking, 360-degree mastery of the physical, 360-degree mastery of the spiritual or etheric, understood, to make us, as I say, complete again. 720, 7 plus 2 equals 9. So the reason why we don't dig up the bones of our ancestors, etc., is because our knowledge, or the corrective knowledge to restore us back when we have moved away from the rules and ways of living of natural nature, understood, comes back to us in the form of our spiritual science restored back to us, known as Wu-Sabat, and it presents itself as outformation, understood. So it's from above, or from our ancestors above, and then is brought down to us or converted into information, understood, which is particularly much relates to stuff taking place within or upon the surface of the planet. And then you also have that which is contained within the seas, referred to as beneath formation, understood. So you have outformation, yes, information, and then you have beneath formation, yes. And one of the when the Islamic degree, he was known as or presented himself as the reformer, al-Mujaddid, you understand? And so when we look at that, we see the word reformer, so we see another word with form within it, in the sense of outformation. You see information, you see beneath formation, and then we see reformer, as in reformation, understood? So when we say this being is to transform us back, well, yes, transform us back into the image, obviously, likeness of those who created us. You understand? So we want to get back into the form of Ray. Reye. And so we talk about our higher ancestors, known as overseers or Panatharu in the Sabaic language. They are suns, understood? And we happen to be the terrestrial representation of that. So for us to be back within the order of Re, in the sense, or Reye, as in sun ray, yeah, or to be in that image again, to be expressing ourselves by design as a terrestrial suns that we are, in a sense, in this physical world, and all other races revolve around that. That's not a racist statement, it just happens to be a factual statement, as we were first, and when those forces, decide to manifest a human being or humanoid being on this planet at that time, those sun heat genes understood, interpreted, and worked with the environment and produced, do you understand, people that look like us, understood, and our obviously ancient mothers and fathers, you understand, or descendants, who we obviously are their children today, understood. So that methodology, you understand, it renews itself every 24,000 years in terms of our story. There's always different teachers who enter into this realm to keep human beings, one might say, on the straight and narrow, or to help them to fulfill their potential, understood. But at the end of the 24,000 year cycle, what they refer to as the 19th elder, Yanun, then becomes or occupies the 25th seat. Do you understand? So that's here on the planet Earth, in order then to convey us the correct information that we need to know to aid our transformational journey once again, or our ascension journey once again, to become who we're supposed to be. You understand? And unfortunately, people particularly black people on this planet, have been suffering from a sickness, you understand, classified in Wu-Sabat as the spell, understood, and we are basically been following a number of different ideologies and religions that were nothing to do with what our ancestors who knew were highly advanced, highly technological. It's not something that they followed or knew, but they don't know about no Bible or Quran, those who built the pyramids, or us who built the pyramids, understand, in their various different classifications, all around this planet, and even now under the waters of this planet, to see the same pyramid culture, pyramid structure, etc. Signatures of our culture and our way of life, understood. They don't know about no Bible, Quran, you understand, all these different things, Torah, you understand, Tefillim, yeah. They don't know about it, Injil, they don't know about these things, understood. So somewhere along the line, someone convinced us that worshipping some deity that doesn't look like us, understood, is the way to our salvation. Do you understand? It's the way to everlasting life, as they refer to us, and sold us a dream. And yet our people still, to this day, even after sort of the last 6,000 years, but more acutely in the last sort of 400 to 500 years, when we were kidnapped from Africa and transported as what they refer to as slaves. You understand, a crime in terms of kidnapping of human beings is a crime for servitude and for our blood in many different places around the world. You understand? So, excuse me. And so that we were taught misinformation, understood, poison to our mental. Yes, that the God that we should worship shouldn't look like us, and should look like the people who kidnapped us. And so we find ourselves, as I say, in a situation where religion today, or monotheistic religion today, makes you subservient to other races, and we lost knowledge of our spiritual science and who we really were and what we were supposed to be, growing into. So the who we are was subsumed with what we became, understand, under the obviously significant and treacherous circumstances that we found ourselves in the West. And obviously that culture, or Western culture, has permeated itself around the world, and the sort of global economic system is designed, as many will know, to keep people particularly with darker skinned people, in a regressive state. But through forces of natural nature, that is changing, understood, and we have to be prepared and realign ourselves with natural nature in order to take full advantage of the change, and find ourselves free, not only physically but free mentally, in a sense, to fulfill your potential. Yeah. So within the degrees or the religious schools, the medicine that was taught to our people in the form of I came giving you what you want, so you'd learn to want what I really came to give, because the science of Wu-Sabat was too heavy at that time. This combination of Dr. Malachi York and a whole light being referred to, one of our Etheric ancestors, referred to as El Khadir, the green one. The Egyptians referred to these individuals as Natiru, in the sense, or Natharu in proper tones, but their real name is Morazaku, in the sense, meaning providers, understood. And we were touching upon that in the last class, of their role and where they came from and where they reside, and we'll sort of continue that today as well. Yeah, and so this, after the sort of Devil's Rule ended, 9th September 1999, then it was time for us, having this started in the 60s, but as I say, that real kind of spiritual science, we wasn't ready for it, we wanted to worship, then it was now ready, after the first half an hour from 1970 down to year 2000, it was now time for our stuff once again, and so a new combination was needed. Dr. Malachi York, or Cran, and the whole line being within the 19th, now 25th, occupying the 25th seat, 19th elder now occupying the 25th seat, known as Parnabab Yanun. And so you see him there in the Mozaku dress, you understand, or how they depicted this in their humanoid form there. All right, let's get into where we are today. Any questions?
Yes, there's one question from Patsy, and she asks, what was the title of the recording that was just played of Dr. Malachi York?
There is no time span. Yeah, there is no time span. That was the name of the class. Okay, thank you for that question. Now, let's see where we were. So what we were doing, those joining us for the first time, let's just so let me just show the first screen and we'll get into where we are today. So, are there any questions out? Start with the hand raised. So we were dealing with this Paa Taraq. I was there, which is here. And before getting into the detail of the story, and I won't say story, but the events, let's say, that happened in relation to this, yeah, what we wanted to do is explain to you the different parties involved, so you know who's who. Do you understand? So we were explaining, moreover, who are our ancestors. So who are these overseers, or the Natharu? Who are they? Who are the Draconians, for example, another group of extraterrestrials of interest? Who are the Pleiadians, another group of extraterrestrials of interest? And who are the Anunnaki? In a sense, another group of extraterrestrials of interest, before getting into the details of the story, so you know who's who and what their motivations are in relation to these events that took place, as I say, around about 12,000 or so years ago, as we start to get into quite a significant story as it relates to us as human beings on the planet. Yeah, so that's what we've been doing over the last 4 parts or so, and we'll continue to go into more, I think, who the Anunnaki are, then into the Pleiadians, yeah, and then start to get back into this set of events being conveyed to us by the Master Teacher in this Paa Taraq. Yeah. Sorry, there's a hand raised, yeah. Right, Babji Defreta. Are you there?
I'm there, just a second. I can't see a hand raised on my device here.
Okay. Person's asking the question of Tar Amun Raye is asked, can you explain free parent birth? So not particularly relevant to what we're talking about today, but no less not important. So what you're talking about with a triversal birth in that regard. What you find is that, or what you can find is some in a situation where, let's say maybe it's not a natural situation. So let's say, for example, you have a woman and she has defective mitochondrial DNA. So maybe that's a defect or a disease that she's suffering from. What scientists can do today is they can use another woman's mitochondrial DNA and perform an exercise where they, in the actual egg, they replace her mitochondrial DNA with a healthy woman's mitochondrial DNA and use that basically within the birthing process. So what you find then in a situation like that is you have obviously the birth mother who's going to carry the child. You have the mitochondrial DNA from a donor of a healthy who has healthy mitochondrial DNA and has donated that to the child, and then you've got the sperm obviously of the father, you understand, in this particular instance. So in that combination it's triversal because you've got the genes of 3 different persons obviously who make up the obviously the gamete, obviously, which is going to become obviously the fetus, so on and so forth, and then produce that child. You understand? So in that situation, it would be triversal, understood? Birth, because you're using the genes of 3 different individuals in order to produce the child. So that would be a triverse, as opposed to most human beings, and most of you all and myself, were born from a dual verse. You were born from a mother and a father. That would be a dual verse that gave birth to you as the universe. But in the situation just described, that would be a triverse that has given birth to a universe. Understood? So that is a triversal or free parent, as you would describe birth. When you see excuse me, sometimes you see I don't know, a homosexual couple or whatever, 2 males, and obviously they might use a surrogate, for example, and produce a child, understood? But in that situation, it's not triversal, maybe triversal from a cultural point of view, but not obviously from a natural nature or a nature point of view, because obviously one person has fertilized the egg, the surrogates carried it, and so it's still 2 people. Now, in that situation, or in those situations, and maybe even heterosexuals who use surrogates or whatever the case may be, really they should give props to the person who carried the baby. So in those types of situations, that one may say that they're culturally a free parent situation, even though it's not physically the case, because obviously what you want is you want children to see the reality of certain things. So whether you're heterosexual and you use a surrogate, or whether you're homosexual and you've used a surrogate, then you should always show the fact that the surrogate is there. Do you understand? In terms of, or at least in the origin of the pictures, that would be fair, isn't it? If you're being accurate about that, as opposed to maybe presenting a scenario where you've got 2 men, for example, and they're not going to be able to produce a child of any type of description, not physically. So rather than suppress the characteristic, capability of the woman, you should celebrate that. Do you understand? So in that regard, but that could apply for heterosexual couples, as I say, where the woman, for whatever reason, cannot have a child and uses a surrogate, then they should show the reality of that, so that, you understand, we are culturally, as I say, we're not hiding or suppressing the capability of the woman in that regard. Understood? Even if, as I say, they play no part in the child's life going forward. Do you understand? So, and obviously, clearly, culturally, in situations like that, it's obviously going to be important if you're using another person's genetics or genes. You know, there may be things that come up in the child's life that, you know, one would need to know about. Obviously, if there was some genetic disease that got passed on or whatever, and you had no awareness of it, then this type of birth type situation, you'd need to know that maybe that information, if it had relevance, as I say, to maybe some disease or some defect that the child was suffering from later in life. You understand? So these things are important if we're all going to start to get mature about when we're talking about genetics and genes. So hopefully that's answered your question. If not, feel free to ask or further questions on that particular short matter.
Before you continue, Nabab Kakni Hess, just so you're aware, I am able to see raised hands now.
Okay, no problem. Appreciate that. Paa Taraq, I'm on raised, still got his hand raised, so I'm not sure if he's got a further question or because he typed it as well, so or whether that was the question that he was asking. So maybe just check that with him. So what we're reading from is from an update. It's called By Way of the Times. Yeah, so we're just going to finish that off and then get into another one. So this is basically helping us to understand, or it was helping us to understand, I think we touched upon it last week, just a little bit about, excuse me, a little bit about the Anunnaki, so in relation to that. But I think what was also useful to that was us understanding a bit about the hierarchy of these groups of extraterrestrials. We asked some questions in relation to that last week. And what was interesting, that this place referred to as Ilion, where we'll get into that maybe a bit later in this class today, but many of the, when a sort of event took place where it damaged the atmosphere or dome that protected this eighth planet in the 19th galaxy, Rizq, understood, from the three suns that surrounded it as a tri-solar system. So, and then they had to relocate for a period of time while the dome was repaired. And so many of our higher ancestors, they relocated, and one of the places they went to was Orion. And what was interesting was, particularly here, we saw that the tri-star, or Orion's belt, as a tri-solar system, was one of those places we relocated to, and it was referred to as Ilion, as I mentioned in the third degree or Quran. We see that Ilion is mentioned, yeah, and so this is one of the places where we relocated or found a similar type of star constellation or configuration that was conducive to their liberty, whilst, as I say, Rizq was, or the dome around Rizq was being repaired. So this was an interesting observation, yeah, or teaching from this particular update, yeah. So we were there, and what Marcia was introducing us to was two words. We understand that evolution, and well, in modern society today, and in the language, there's no word association associated with these two words. Yes, but in Wu-Sabat, there is an association between these two words. And so evolution and revolution, just adding the R, yeah, there's a connection to that. And in essence, here we're going to get a slightly different explanation, but it's the way in which those both from a racial point of view, you would say cultural point of view, us as Sabians or Negroid or Nagaru, understood, process time differently to the way in which the Caucasian processes time. Do you understand? And so clockwise, yeah, which the illusion of the clock going around, yeah, on the clock or watch, in that regard, it moving in that direction would be anti in terms of the anti-nature, because the sun appears, also illusionary state, obviously from somebody standing on the planet Earth looking upwards, would go from east to west. So in natural time or nature's time, it would be going in the opposite direction to what they would describe as clockwise. So we'd be going anti-clockwise as opposed to clockwise. And remember, yeah, that relates to how certain things are viewed from the planet Earth looking upwards. And so this is one of the important things that one must remember. As soon as you step outside of the planet, those things that appear to be, you know, illusionary on here were not going to exist in the same way. Do you understand? So we may look and we might identify a particular star constellation, and we use the word constellation when stars appear in the sky, and just in terms of classification, it looks like a picture, understood? However, in relation to that, then, you know, it's a case that effectively that's only going to look like that from a certain position and certain location from this planet. You know, if you see Orion as a certain, I don't know, it looks like a 7-star configuration, 6 major star, but it looks like a 7-star configuration, and we draw it, let's say, as a human being. But as you get closer to it, it's obviously not going to look like that. The closer you get to it, it looks like that from Earth. So we always have to remember that culturally things are appearing a certain way and been recorded in that way from that which is from a vantage point of looking at it from Earth, in the sense. So we always have to kind of remember that in relation to certain matters, and this is important. So yeah, because the way the records then are recorded and the way things are written and kept, we have to understand the vantage point from where somebody is speaking from. So in addition to stars and recording records of that, that's going to be important, but also who's writing the records, because certain record keeping, understood, and who is writing it is important, and what's their motivation, and then from our vantage point, are they for or against us? Do you understand? Because that's going to have a certain way in which, or bias, as people may describe it as, of if they don't like certain people, then the way they're recorded, then they're going to make the person they don't like, or the people they don't like, or the tribe, or whatever, or extraterrestrial they don't like, they're going to make them negative. Now, but are they negative? Or they could make them evil, or they could make them good, depending on their vantage point, understood? And so this is important when people are reviewing or looking at records. And this is one of the things, particularly the Master Teacher tried to explain this to us, you know, in the Right Knowledge series, but particularly in the Holy Tablets, where it was the bridge between religion and reality, by giving you the different versions of the stories, creation stories and things of that nature from different cultures. In a sense, he gave you the Anunnaki, or excuse me, the Sumerian version. He gave you the version from the Dravidians, or people known as Hindus. Biblical records, lost books, different perspectives. You understand, where you're getting the same stories recorded by different cultures around the world. None of them, in some instances, having the or understanding of the original. A lot of stuff has been copied and then transported around the world, and different cultures have picked up certain stories and then told it their own way to make it look like they've got a skin in the game, so to speak, or they want to tie into the vine of greatness, and the same by making it appear that maybe their ancestors are the Natharu, or or Riskians, etc., by taking our stories. You know, and in some instances, they have their own stories of different groups of extraterrestrials, but yet in some ways they may have the same title. Do you understand? So this can be where a lot of confusion comes in as well. So if you said that today in modern times, if we said the word extraterrestrial, the word extraterrestrial in and of itself means extra, isn't it? To terra, which is earth, and astral from the skies. Now that could apply to a lot of different beings, isn't it? And it can even apply to comets. Comets are extra-terrestrial, as some rays are extra-terrestrial. So it can apply to a lot of different things, the terminology. Understood? Doesn't just mean, like they show you in the movies, little green men, isn't it, from Mars or things of that nature. So it's got a certain connotation next to the word, but it can apply to a lot of different people. In and of itself, it is an event, it's an attribute, isn't it? So and this is where sometimes the confusion comes in, because obviously with some of this terminology that we're using here, sometimes they're describing an attribute, or in other times they're describing an event. Understood? And so therefore that can apply to a lot of different it could apply to more than one group of extraterrestrials, and sometimes people find that really confusing as part of the spell. So even terms like this, N-key, or even N-lil, so N-key, ruler, N-ruler, key, earth, and N-lil, ruler of the skies, for example. Remember, that is the position, it's not the person's name, you understand? So N-key, the name of the being who it oftentimes is being associated with is Nudimud, and then Enlil is Nunamir. Understood? But this relates to the ruler of the skies. That's a position, isn't it? It's like somebody saying president or prime minister or something of that nature, or in a military context. That could be general, do you understand? General of the skies, understand? Then on Earth, general of the earth. So you've got troops and other beings under you that report to you, understood? And when they refer to you as, they may say sergeant, they may say captain, they may say general. So they may refer to you by your position. They're not referring to you by your name, understand? Or your position and your name. So like General Colin Powell, for example, in the States, you understand? So referring to you by your name and your title. Or sometimes I might just say, call you General. The same way that somebody's referred to as Mr. President, they're referring to the title and not the name of the person sitting in the seat. So these are important things that one has to really get their head around. So you're able to apply your intelligence into some of the into certain stories that obviously have been given, or records. Let's say stories, it implies fiction, but certain records that you're being given to analyze. So you need to be able to get your head around who the people are involved, who the players are involved, and then what their motivation is, and more importantly, who is for us and against us, do you understand, in this regard. So these are the characteristics of breaking the spell. So you got some questions, you're saying that's not on the subject. I mean, if it's relevant to what we're talking about, feel free to ask, and if I think it's not relevant, then, or it's going to take us too far away from what we're speaking about today, then I'll refer you to a book that can help you out. So post them or ask them live, and make the decision from there. Okay, so let's see. So we talked about these two groups, So Munshuru evolutionists and Mudwuru revolutionists, or should be called religionists. So let's look at the definition of both of these then. So 31, evolutionists of the Adamite race claim that they came from simians or ape, monkeys, born with tails and some born tailless. 32, revolutionists or religionists of the Adamite race claim and advocate that they were created from the dust, mud, clay, loam, and a spirit breath was blown into their shell. Understand? So we've got our two names there. So I think it's very clear, obviously, on the screen and what we've just read there. So one is saying, obviously, which we're more familiar with, aren't we, when we hear the word evolution? They think they came from monkeys. But the issue that they have is that there's some confusion there, isn't it? Because monkeys live in trees, but when they talk about prehistoric man in their stories, they talk about cavemen, isn't it? And there's like when he's a kid, Captain Caveman, all that kind of stuff, the Flintstones and all those type of things. Yeah, so they've got this idea that men or man, you understand, that's inclusive of woman, as they record it, lived in caves. Yeah, came out of cave, prehistoric man. But monkeys, who they came from, monkeys don't live in caves; they live in trees. So that's a problem with their evolutionary record keeping or story that they're trying to tell the world. But the revolutionist now is on the religious side of things, where they are talking about the origin of creation, be it dust or, in the biblically speaking, or clay. You understand? If you're talking about the Third Testament, which would be the Quran. Understood? Now, what does it say here? 33. It just so happens that both opponents are half correct. 34. Because the correct whole answer is a combination of both groups were made and grafted into evolution. So, according to that record, yeah, it's not creation. Understood? Yeah, it is making something from things that are already here. And so we went through this, I think, the last time to say that, well, it's clear from reading the book that that is not the beginning. You understand? It is within a period called the beginning. Yeah, and we understood that to be around about 50,000 years ago. Yeah, when you pick up your sort of biblical story and you're dealing with the word yom or day, you understand, as a period of time. Yeah, each of those periods, when you basically calculate the day of the Lord, excuse me, one day to the Lord is 1,000 years, you understand, and a day to us, obviously, a day, but in their time, wherever they're residing, in their particular constellation, yeah, a day is the equivalent of 1,000 years of Earth time, you understand, as it relates to the event of us, or the planet, I should say, spinning on its own axis, understand, in one revolution, which we're calling a day. That period is one epoch, so it's around about 50,000 years when you get into the sort of biblical 7 days or at least 6 days of creation, with their deity resting upon the seventh day. So, 35. So both groups do not start from the beginning, as you see in their Bible and Quran. Beings such as angels or Elohim had existed before Adam, as well as the planet Earth. That's clear in their creation story of 6,000 years ago, found in Genesis 1, verses 1 to 25. 36. You see Nawapians in Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. When the spirit of Elohim deities came down here, it says the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the surface of the deep waters. And the Ruach or Ruh, spirit and soul of God, Elohim deities, moved or hovered upon the face of the surface of the waters. 37. Yet when you read Genesis 1:1, you see the word created, which is a mistranslation of Hebrew Strong's number 1254, which means to cut down, select, choose, do, or make. So you see two broad errors there, isn't it? Yeah, so the word created, which is really the word bara, and this is also one of the problems, that you're relying on, men, because we weren't allowed to translate scriptures. You're relying on men who lived 400-500 years ago. They don't have the same technological knowledge, understand, that you have today, and so you're relying on that and basing your soul on their translation. Do you understand? So the word created is incorrect based on the wording used. Bara means to make, or make from things existing here, and even this, where you're seeing it's been translated as a spirit, in the sense of God moved across, when in actuality the word ruach, you understand, really means soul, doesn't mean spirit. You understand? Excuse me. Ruach or ruh means soul. You understand? So this is where you have problems and confusion, where people are saying, well, it's the word of God, but obviously if you translate it into a different language, yes, you get a different meaning, or you can get different meanings, we see here. You understand? But people will swear blind. You understand? This is the word of God, no mistakes, no errors, etc. Not, you understand, really going into things saying, well, that is a it's a version, isn't it? Yeah, there's a version, understood. And most of those monotheistic religions today, say most, all of the monotheistic religions today have oldest, they don't have original. Yes, they have oldest, their version of this, oldest version of that, oldest, they don't have the original. And so if there wasn't even an original Bible in its context of a book, understood, there was the first version of it, and so that they decided what scriptures should be placed within it. And as I say, you've got all of the errors and mistakes that you're going to have on limitations when you take it from a more sophisticated or older language and then place it into English. Yeah, you get ambiguity. And at one time, if you remember, some of you may culturally, we won't remember physically, but I'm saying if you remember in terms of knowledge or what we've taught before, is that remember, they used to bury people, they used to kill people for translating into any other language other than the excuse me, at one time the Semitic languages understood, obviously then into sort of Latin and Greek, and they would kill people for translating it even into English. Do you understand? So because they recognise, isn't it, that the confusion in terms of the translations would then lead to lead to different sects and things being formed because people take their own interpretation. Now today, you're trying to deal with, let's say you're trying to correct somebody or break down a particular word or verse, what something means, and because you understand it in Wu-Sabat, at least the master teacher giving you the context and backstory, understood, and you can go and do research now in ways that you couldn't have done 20 or 30 years ago, for example, but we were breaking it down today, which are things are obvious to see. It wasn't as obvious to see, but a person can say to you in English, well, that's not what it says in my Bible. You understand? Yeah, because you might be using a King James version, they're using New International Version, and some of these more modern translations, they've translated it in a way to hide certain true observations that are quite clear, let's say maybe in the King James Version. So if they feel that, hey, we can't explain why God sounds like a plural in the beginning, you understand, of Genesis chapter 1, they're talking about we this, we that, etc., then they're going to change it when they do a New English Version and use different words that then hides that meaning, do you understand, or hides some of those inconsistencies or, you know, the confusion in that regard. So that's the problem that you face, that whoever's reading it in English, there's several degrees away or 3 degrees away from the truth, because it's in English, translated from Latin, in some instances Greek, so you're 2 away, and then you've got whatever language it was originally written in. So you're 3 degrees away from the truth, and even then they messed with the Semitic languages. So there was no vowels, for example, in the classic form of Arabic, do you understand, that was used, let's say, for the Quran, and there's no vowels when in ancient Hebrew. So both of them, which are dialects, in fact, of Syriac. So there's no vowels used in there. So you're not reading on the original anyway, understood. But here, anyway, it's pointing out some fairly obvious translation mistakes. Yeah, so you're putting your trust or your soul in the translator. And let's be honest. If there's things they don't like, they're going to hide them. 38. Also in Arabic, you find exactly the same word used for an attribute of their deity, who they call Allah. You will see his 12th attribute, Al-Bari, is the maker, producer. Excuse me. 39. It's also found in their holy book, the Quran, but never as the creators, only the maker. One who makes is to use what exists already. 40. The word make is from the Old English makian, to build, manufacture, not to create. 41. From the Latin creare is to cause to come into existence, originate, to bring about. So the Hebrew word bara and the Arabic word al-bari are the same, to make, not create. 42. So now when you look back at Genesis 1:1, it says, in the beginning God, Elohim, created the heaven, sky above, and the earth, solid ground. King James Version 611 AD. No deep water is mentioned, no liquid, only the sky and the ground. So the place was covered by deep water when the ruach, spirit, soul of Elohim came down here. 43. And then, Genesis 1:21 in part, and God Elohim created bara, made great whales. And we did touch upon this last time, so maybe I'm going over the same thing. I was touching upon this. But 44. First, it is now known that whales are not fish, yet mammals, which are large, warm-blooded sea mammals that breathe air. 45. These same sea mammals that breathe air was once on land and had hips, and will drown if they don't come up to breathe. 46. So to say Elohim created great whales that moveth, which the waters brought forth, is incorrect, or is wrong. 47. Whales were on land, then went into the waters. 48. The word in Hebrew is tanin, or tanin, dragon or sea monsters. Hebrew Strong's number 8577. And the serpent, tan, to elongate a monster, serpent or dragon. Hebrew Strong's number 8565. So we see here tanin, and saying as a word for serpent or dragon in this regard, relating to whales. So what that's explaining for those may not be quite catching it, is that basically when the sort of archaeologists, paleontologists, people who study fossils, they've now found that whales once had hips. Understood? So the position that people are saying, well, if that was the beginning in Genesis 1:1, the planet is full of water. So the planet's full of water, completely covered in water. Understood? Well, the whales were not created they didn't originate in the sea in that regard. They're mammals. So they were originally on land, yeah, and then obviously migrated into the waters, obviously, and adapted accordingly. Understood? So that's the point that's being made here, is that the sequencing is off in relation to there's a particular word, but for lack of a better word, the growth or the development, do you understand, of this particular being. Yeah, it's phylogenetic tree, understood? So i.e. what it was before, what it was originally, and how that has changed. And saying before is that it was a land-based creature first, understood, before being sea, before basically living or occupying, or its predominant time, in the case of whales, they're continually in the sea, understood, they're not on land anymore. 49, so the genes, the RNA has adapted now to its new environment, and this is what, as I say, from a sequencing point of view, doesn't make sense, because the Bible is trying to say that it was created in the waters of the planet. 49. So it's clear this is a mistranslation of time, for it neglects millions of years the whale was walking on dry land or ground. So we see what we're saying. 50. As Ayanun have mentioned many times, both the Bible and the Quran have expired. 51. They are outdated and contain much misinformation, mistakes, such as bats in the Bible called fowl, Leviticus 11, verses 13, chapter 11, verses 13 to 19. Bats are not fowls, they are rodents. That's an actual fact. Leviticus 11, 13 to 19. 13. And these are they which ye shall have in abomination amongst the fowls. They shall not be eaten. They are an abomination. The eagle, the ossifrage, and the osprey. 14. And the vulture, and the kite, and after his kind. 15. Every raven after his kind. 16. An owl, and nighthawk, and cuckoo, and the hawk after his kind. 17. And the little owl, and the cormorant, and the great owl. 18. And the swan, and the pelican, and the gier eagle. 19. And the stork, and the heron after her kind, and the lapwing, and the bat. Yeah, so King James Version 16:11. So we see these errors, and as we just explained earlier, remember the mindset of the translators, understood? Yeah, they didn't understand sometimes what they're reading, or certain classifications. So you're dealing with the minds of men. You're not dealing with what people are describing as, oh, well, that's the word of God. Well, unless God is a man, unless God is a white man translator who translated this book, a group of them, obviously from Latin, do you understand, into the English language, you understand? Which obviously, by the fact it says King James Version, is telling you, yeah, who ordered the translation. Yeah, so our king's egotistical. Yes, he wanted his own version named after him because he didn't agree with the previous version. So you've got errors and mistakes sitting in there. And as I say, like you see in the book of John and the book of Revelations that John received by way of Jesus, according to their story, yeah, there's no certain things there's no word for as well. So, or there was no word for at the time where they supposedly were living. You understand? So today you're describing certain things like, I don't know, a missile being fired from a jet, for example. Well, if John's having a vision of the future, what word would he use to describe that? You understand? There's no word in his language, in his vocabulary for missile. There's no word in his vocabulary, etc., for plane. It doesn't have that. So you get this allegorical kind of version of what's being described, understood, and where you see that in England, in this particular instance, you know, England wasn't a technological powerhouse, obviously, in the 15th, 16th century, understood. You know, the powerhouse or technological powerhouse at their time was the Moors, understood. So, you know, in this instance or in this regard, yeah, there are people on the planet who were more advanced technologically, understood, yeah, than the people who are translating the books were. So, but yet, you know, people are going to swear blind that this is the word of God. So until analytics comes along, or you're able to have an analytical mind to review what you're reading fairly, do you understand? And the problem, certainly for our people, is that we're fixated with these books now. You understand? Be it Bible and you know, more recently, as I would say, the Quran. You understand? But people are fixated with these books, and they have errors in. You understand? A lot of errors, human errors, but they claim them to be the word of God. They claim them to be infallible, so on and so forth. And we're locked into these versions of creation. And the problem is that we're, you know, in favor of where we should be learning more advanced things about ourselves. People want it to be referenced in some way, or some biblical explanation makes a lot of people comfortable. But all of this is all part of the spell binding, yeah, being locked into these books. So your creation story does not have to have anything to do in that Bible. If you're not, if that's not your culture, you understood, and it's not nothing to do with your people in that regard. Yeah, that's all part of the trick. Any questions?
Yes, there are a couple of questions. The first question is from Patsy. Last week, you spoke to us. Coming. Let me start again. Last week, you spoke of us coming here via dolphins. You mentioned today the deities coming from above, who are our ancestors. Can you please marry the two for broader understanding?
Yeah, so effectively the dolphin was used as a mechanism. So dolphin, it's from a planet that's no longer in this solar system, referred to as, well, they say Vulcan, but it's Meldek was its original name, and it was destroyed by way of a crash from a craft ship that the Sumerians referred to as Nibiru. If we get to that part of the class, we will go into that, maybe not the crash, but the origin of where this craft referred to as Nibiru originated from. One of a number of craft ships in the fleet, all referred to as Nibiru, where the word Hebrew, in fact, originates from. And basically, yeah, the dolphin was used to transport our genes. So the word dolphin from Delphus means womb. And so it was transported to the Sirius star constellation at a time where we needed to relocate from there to this planet. and our genes basically were transported in the dolphin. The dolphin was transported to Earth and then defecated in the waters, and that led to simple biological life being started, which eventually became our physical structure, what we have today. So simple cellular life forms, protozoas, amoebas. That's what the dolphin was used for, to transport our genes here in the sand. And so because it carried us, I suppose that's why we share maybe a lot of DNA in that regard with the dolphin. So effectively, it makes it our grandparents, but it was used, as I say, as a womb to carry, yes, and the origin of human beings to this planet. What was the other question?
The other question is from Bata Amun Ray, and it sort of relates to the previous question. It says, were the Maldekians related to the dolphin that brought our genes here?
Insofar as them being sea creatures or amphibious, yes, in that way. Yeah.
No further questions.
Okay. So here we see, as I say, it says now, 52. So you have the Adamites who claim their mistranslated Bible and Quran, who says were created from dust, clay, mud, loam by some mystery god. At 53. And you have Adamites who claim they came from monkeys. 54. So remember what we're looking at here. We're looking at, let me say it's correctly, evolutionists, remember, from monkeys. Revolutionists are the ones who say that origin or mankind came from God, in the same by way of their religious books. 54. Both, if asked, where did the mystery God come from, how long ago, and exactly where is he now, will look dumb. And say you just have to believe and have faith. 55. If you asked where did the first simian come from and how long ago and exactly where on earth, they will again have a dumb look. 56. Here are the most known simians, and they are not all from the same line. A. Baboon, B. Mandrill, C. Gibbon, D. Orangutan, E. Gorilla, F. Chimpanzee. 55. And now DNA has confirmed that the white race has in their genes A. Canine, B. Simian, and C. Porcine. 56. They are Homo canine and Homo simian and Homo porcine and can exchange body organs with them, breed with them to make hybrids or human Z's. Look at them again, or respect, i.e. re again or spect to look. Re means again, spect to look at them. 57. You will notice some look like dogs, their face shape, their teeth, and some are born with tails or coccyx. 58. Others of them have the body shapes and noses like pigs, and they all have fur, not hair. 59. They all have the skin color of all three, and they act like all three. 60. They eat almost anything like the porcine, are violent like canines, and lustful like simians, and all have the same ear shapes as all three. 60. When was this undertaken to crossbreed them? 61. Well, it was 42,000 years ago by the Kamau Pleiadians, the plain-skinned, transparent, thin fur, colourless eyes of this extraterrestrial race from the Pleiades star system north of Orion and south of Draco. 62. They were allowed to terraform, develop a part of this planet called Plan ET. 63. They were also in the Persian Gulf, called by the Anunnaki Iridu, or Iridu, which became in Hebrew Eretz, and in Arabic Ards, down to English Earth. 64. This is why it's mistaken to mean the whole planet, when in fact it's only a small part of this planet, a solid mass. 65. They came by permission of the Anunnaki, who themselves came long before to repair the damage they caused to this planet by an Ibiru, that which crosses the skies. Which is what Nibiru means. 66. the mother craft with smaller crafts inside called shams, or kabad, glory, where the word COVID comes from. Yeah, so kabad 19 or COVID is the same word, basically. You have the C, V, and D of COVID are interchangeable with the K and B. Understood? Something called sound shift. So when you move a language from one language to another, understood, the pronunciation changes. Yeah, and so some of these words are interchangeable, and certain times people not just make mistakes, but they can hide the fact that languages are linked, understood, or words are linked when they're being moved from one language to another. Do you understand? So sometimes they can hide these links, which would give maybe a hidden understanding to how they've translated a particular verse or sentence, etc. So, glory and others were pillars or rolled shaped, 30 feet by 15 feet, for the transport of beings. Remember, I haven't shown a picture of this, but if you do some research, you'll see, I think fairly recently actually, that they saw one of these pillar-shaped or cigar-type-shaped crafts in the sand, yeah, in Earth. It got detected by, one of the satellites, etc., that we have, and it's been seen. Yeah, so do some research on that. You'll see that this was discovered. This type of shape, etc., is in books in the 80s, going back to the 70s. So long before any kind of movie or anything of that nature, the master teacher was describing these crafts, yeah, that we used to transport, gold and other type minerals, obviously, to these larger ships, understood, or mother type crafts, referred to as Nibiru. So Nibiru is a fleet, as well as obviously being an individual planet-sized craft ship. Yeah, it's like the US, let's say, US Air Force, or the RAF, for example, the Royal Air Force in the UK. All of the crafts will be known as the Royal Air Force, or all the crafts may be known as the American Air Force, you understand? So it's like describing the fleet, as opposed to just one individual ship at times, or craft. So for the transport of beings, 67, these Magala pillars, or Ahmad, and those beings inside before incarnation were called Ruach, or spirit beings. 68, the same beings became flesh and blood, being able to shape shift as well as duplicate those who welcomes them into the flesh. 69, they can take on many forms and possess a person, and can take on their outward image and look like them. 70, they met with the overseer of this planet 15,000 BC, and these Kamau Pleiadians asked, "Let us make a man." That is they requested to make Adamites. 71, or let us make a ruddy, pinkish, reddish, spotted blush kind of man, man's kind. 72, they, as you read, had to ask, just as you see, about the light in Genesis chapter 1, verse 3. And it says, and God, Elohim, deities, said to someone unknown, let allow there be come about light, AWR, illumination, and there came about light, AWR, illumination. Yeah, King James Version 1611. 73. So as you see, this Ruach, or Ruh, spirit, soul of the Elohim, had to ask someone or ones to shine illumination so he could see. 74. He did not create this illumination. He asked, allow there be light, illumination, a request from above. 75. This illumination is not the sun or moon, for you see in Genesis 1:14, for light is not Ur, it is Mawrur. Yeah, chandelier, bright light, as an orb, not just a ray. And verses 15 to 19 make it clear that this is the sun and the moon and other stars being seen, now orbs in the sky, which the Elohim set there. Not what the Ruach or Ruh spirit or soul of the Elohim requested. Yeah, so Genesis chapter 1, verses 14 to 19 says, and God said, let there be light in the firmaments of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for the signs and for the seasons and for the days and the years. 15. And let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to give light upon earth, and it was so. 16. And God made two great lights, the great light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. 17. So this is another thing, which you think, because two great lights, the sun and the moon, but the sun is a star. Understood? 17. God set them in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth. 18. And to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. God saw that it was good. 19. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. So 76. Another outdated mistake. The moon does not give off its own light, and stars are suns, which you just mentioned. The Bible and Quran have expired. 77. So just as light was requested, there was also a request to make a white man, Adamite, to look like them and act like them. Understood? Yeah, any questions?
Yes, there's a question, and the first question is from Munaza, and Munaza asked, can you type the name of the scroll in the chat? I think he's referring to the one you're reading from.
So it's not a scroll, it's a reading that you're seeing on the screen. Oh, mouse works. It's called By Way of the Times. By Way of the Times. Now it may appear in a book at some point in the future. But it's not available at the moment. By way of... Yeah, so it's a update / reading. Okay, any other questions?
Yes, there's another question by Paa Taraq. Was Eve or TT and Adam both hybrids?
So it's a good question. Yeah. So their original, because they came from two different tribes, they were both of them individually. Yeah, they were hybrids. So their genes were not compatible with the other party. So in the story of the rib being removed from Adam into Eve, it's not really a rib because a man has however many ribs. I think 23 pairs. Is it 23? Someone check that for me. I think it's 23 pairs of 23 ribs. Today still doesn't have a missing rib, but what it was, they had to take the blood. So Adam was from what they describe as from the Watusi tribe, or that Adam. There was almost 15 generations before you get down to the one that's been referred to, sort of biblically speaking. Do you understand? So this is a series of experiments that are taking place to get the version right or correct. Yeah. So the original Adam, I should say, was from the Watusi tribe, and the original Eve was from the genes were taken from she was taken from the Patahites. You understand? Now those two genes were not compatible with each other. So insofar as if they produced a child, so they came together and produced a child, the child in itself of that combination would be a hybrid, because basically that child could not then produce another version of itself. Do you understand? So it's like a donkey. You understand? So excuse me, a horse and a donkey produces a mule. You understand? So a mule is a hybrid because a mule can't produce another mule. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you have to then take another horse and another donkey and crossbreed them in order to produce a mule. So in this instance, that first part of the experiment, any offspring they would have produced was a mule. So they took some of the blood out of Adam, i.e. his DNA, to make him compatible, obviously, with that version of Eve, you understand? And then several generations down, they were able to get, through their experimentation, able to get one that could procreate, obviously, on their own, do you understand? I.e., an Adamite or an Evite could come together, understood, and then produce children that could then produce other children. Do you understand? And in that context, obviously, children at that time were being born twins. You understand? So eventually, as you come down to the one 6,000 years ago, that being will be considered to be a hybrid, because they used, as you see there, it's a different animal parts, or these Pleiadians certainly use different animal parts in order to produce this particular child. So that's a different type of hybrid as opposed to the original problem that they faced, where they were creating a mule type individual, i.e. an offspring that couldn't procreate on its own. By the time you get down to the version of 6,000 years ago, then that's a different hybrid, because they're using animal parts, or in the Pleiadians themselves, based on their technological approach, they used animal parts to create this version of the Adamites to look like them. And they had, as I say, the swine, Homo porcine, they had obviously the canine, and they also had the simian, do you understand, within that mix or combination. And when we understand what they were used for, because they were trying to create a replacement food source for them, as well as somebody who could, I suppose, be an intelligent worker, then obviously what they're doing is they're creating a recipe that, the god or draconians like to eat. You understand? Hence why the porcine and these things are in there, because that's what they like the taste of. You understand? As well as obviously making them resilient, or trying to make them resilient to certain diseases, because this was a form of weapon. Understand? By the time you're getting down to the Adamites, so that these Pleiadians were looking to create, as an alternative source of food, because they were the food. Any other questions?
Yes, Paa Taraq, you have your hand raised. So if you'd like to ask a question, I'd like to ask you to unmute your microphone, and you may ask your question. You may ask your question now, Paa Taraq. Paa Taraq, would you like to ask your question? 3, 2, 1. Maybe the next time.
Okay, anything else?
Oh, would you like to ask your question? Paa Taraq, you have your hand raised. Okay, I think you can continue, Nabab Kaknihes.
All right, okay, no problem. Just give me one sec.
There's another question that's just popped up in the time it took me to mute my microphone, by another one by Paa Taraq. The question is: so this is the one that was placed in the DUF 1220 gene?
Okay, so Yeah, so when you say it was played, I think you mean the other way around. So the DUF1220, yeah, the designer gene, yes, would have been designed in the Adamite. So remember the original. For people who don't know what Paa Taraq is talking about, when the original, so you had 12 entities from Orion, male, so where male DNA comes from, and 12 entities from Sirius, where female DNA comes from. Yeah, as part of a project known as Project 24 to seed, or now we understand, relocate, yeah, our life form here from the Sirius star constellation. What Paa Taraq did as part of that project is that they programmed set skills, understood, that would manifest itself into our DNA. And so what you have is that some people, for example, are able to draw. Now, I'm not talking about, I mean, draw almost photorealism. Do you understand? They can, have that skill. Some people are able to cook. Some people are able to sew. I'm not talking about like just, I can do it. They're actual skillful, you understand, dress or clothes makers, etc., etc. So there were 24 sets of skills given to males and given to females. Now, over time, because of gene mixing and things of that nature, those skill sets appear randomly dispersed, obviously, throughout the birthing process. Do you understand? So, whereas in ancient times, if let's say a skill was born into a particular family, for example, then that family, you understand, son, daughter, or whatever, would continue to develop that skill, and it would turn into orders and things of that nature to maintain that skill set through generations. You understand? And so they gone from inherently having the skills to becoming masters, you understand, of a particular talent or field that they then maintained. Do you understand? So, and that obviously, if somebody was born, the next set of people will be born with that skill set and perfect it in that way. Now, obviously, as more human beings have been born, and let's say those skills have become a lot more dispersed, understood, those orders then, allowed people maybe who wasn't born into that family or bloodline or whatever to come and also be part of those orders. So understood. So that was maintaining a certain skill set. So in the context of DUF 1220, which is the designer gene, yes, that is replicating or trying to replicate, understood, that original sort of a skill imparting, understood, upon the new being, but it has a different characteristic in its use there. So in bringing those particular sets of genes together, what you have to realize is that those groups of extraterrestrials are not as technologically advanced, understood, one, as the Natharu, and then secondly, they've not gone through millions, it's trillions into billions into millions of years of an evolutionary process, understood, to develop that life form, understood. So they're having to compensate by bringing different genes of animals, etc., that have been born, to make up a certain shortfall, as well as I say, what we touched upon earlier, let's say a certain flavouring or combination of taste that these creatures were going to provide. So DF 1220 brings a more of an obsessive characteristic within that life form. Do you understand? That you see with children who are sometimes maybe referred to as autistic or savants. Yeah, so oftentimes when we're seeing certain savants, there is let's say a defective or genetic defective component. So sometimes, what do we see savants? We see maybe some human beings, you understand, with Down syndrome, you understand, who are savants. They can, I don't know, give them any mathematical combination of numbers, they can answer those, you understand? Some have got exceptional memory qualities. You understand? Others, again, drawing. Some never learn music in their life, but are able to hear a tune or whatever. They can replicate it on a piano. Do you understand? So the word savant, if you notice, when Adam was in their Bible story, when Ham looked upon the nakedness of his father and and thought adverse sexual thoughts, you understand? He was cursed in his genes, wasn't he? Yeah, it says, Canaan shall be a servant of servants, yeah, unto his brethren. Do you understand? And the word servant is really the word savant. So DUF 1220 created servants or savants. You understand? So a more obsessive type skill set overstood, yeah, which, as I say, was not the same technology, but it's the same type of approach that they're trying to exhibit within their created version of this Adamite, a kind of man, that to, as I say, allow them to inherit and acquire and develop certain skills, obviously within that particular being. So you have something referred to as the designer gene, and effectively groups of extraterrestrials used to compete. So they used to crossbreed certain animals, crossbreed certain life forms, and at a certain point of the year they would meet where Mecca, or Becca as it's right should be called is today, they would in an arena style show off, a particular version, let's say a minotaur or something of that nature, which are these are crossbreeding combinations of life forms that have oftentimes been perceived as mythological because they've appeared in certain cultures as stories, etc. But these are evidence of crossbreeding projects that they would take and celebrate, in this kind of Olympic style setup that they would meet, as I say, in the center of the planet. Excuse me, where Becca is today. So DUF 1220 is really a sort of designer gene. It's doing two things really. So it's a shortfall of their lack of time, you understand, but also technology understood to produce a being in their image and after their likeness, you understand. So they didn't have the same care or time that's gone into developing this life form. And then secondly, it provides an obsessive skill set. So a lot of the characteristics that we see oversexed within, see OnlyFans now, a proliferation of that within the society and things of that nature. All these is coming from DUF sort of 1220. A lot of the isms being characteristics and behaviours a result of DUF 1220, and even also, I think this has been said before, but most of the society basically, because of that combination of the simian being used, what it means is that the mental capacity of the Caucasian male doesn't really go past the age of 13. Do you understand? Because it's limited because of the simian that was used. So this is why you see in the society everything's about gaming. You understand? So the superheroes, that kind of thing. It's all kind of childish stuff, engaging in wars and different things of that nature. Whereas, it's all kind of childish characteristics. Because of how they were made. Does that mean that you can't fire a rocket off into space? Well, that what that's telling you then, well, what a 13-year-old human brain can really do is not, you understand, what some being that's older than that, really, the capacity of what potential of human beings can do is really probably lost in this day and time, because everything's really based around say the mental capacity of the sort of the European, really, you understand? And so in terms of a lot of the institutions, the way the education was presented to us, it's not really optimized for other races in the West particularly, but that's why you're seeing in different races, you see some, you see kids born or whatever, listen, they're finished their degree, got their masters, their doctorate or whatever, you don't get them special kids, and then they've They're graduating at 13 or whatever. You understand that? At uni, and so to get these special kids being born. It was another child in one of them programs or whatever. Absolute musical prodigy, hadn't even played the piano before his sort of father taught him, but now he's sort of play the piano, play all kind of things. You understand? So there's certain skills that arise out of that, but education is limited and set around, and culture is set around. What they refer to as patriarchal culture is set around, or its limitation is around the 13-year age range or grouping, because of how so they were constructed and made. Understood? So it's a long way of saying DUF1220, and the designer gene, as they refer to it as I say, is trying to replicate the same things that were in the original Project 24, which was programming us with a certain skill set. And if you remember from Master Secret number 1, it gave you that within this last, or the 74,000 year cycle that just passed, there were a number of things that us as Negroids here on the Garu, or the Negroid race, were to have mastered, understood within the last 24,000 year cycle. These are things like time travel. This was things like discovering elements above the 99th element, in the sense some of the man-made elements, etc. Was it telepathy? Certain things we were supposed to master within this last cycle. But 1 second. Go into the laboratory. Just bear with me 1 second. So, this is Master Secret, Series 1, Birth of the Earth and the Matrix, verse 35. And it says, the Nagar Mukwanu, Negro beings, were given 24,000 years. In fact, let me go back before. 34 we'll start from. It says, so the Munbatu, golden children, Mennonites, were given 24 accomplishments to master within the 24,000 years to be welcomed home as part of the galactic system of worlds from this one universe into the Kalei Makwanat omniverse. 35. The Nagar Mukwanu, Negro beings, were given 24,000 years to accomplish these 24 heights of perfection. 1. Decipher the 24,000 genomes. 2. Graft and clone. 3. Overcome killer viruses and diseases. 4. Mental or cordless communication of light, sound and image. 5. Space travel. 6. Transform HG80 Mercury back to AU79 gold. 7. Split the atom. 8. Speak, read, write and record time. 9. Organ transplants. 10. Genetic manipulation. 11. Flight. 12. Construction. 13. Time travel. 14. Discover the free sun solar system, Razak or Marzak. 15. Master music's math in relation to light and sound. 16. Agriculture. 17. Find the gateway or wormhole. 18. Uncover the depths of the seas. 19. Uncover the inner earth's realms. 20. Know their being inside out and outside in. 21. Speak in one tone. 22. Teleportation. 23. Uncover the 120th element. 24. Communication with the spirit world, both dead and extraterrestrial. 36. These were to be accomplished before the hourglass of 24,000 years ran out. 37. This has been done on this orb because of hybrids or mankind who, by their taba'ah nature, was made to be a distraction, and for the past 6,000 years done just that. distracted the Nagaru Negroids with the Reiki spell of mental sleep. You understand? So we can see here there was, in that last 24,000 year cycle, obviously which ended in the year 2000, that there were certain things that we were supposed to master and accomplish, understood? And we haven't done so because of the hindering force, obviously, of the Adamites or these hybrids or the mankind. Do you understand? So as ancestors express, you're not in this situation for what you've done, but for rather what you have failed to do. You understand? So i.e., we have not applied ourselves or allowed, you understand, to apply ourselves, understood, to develop these faculties and the potential within. Now, part of it, obviously, because of this spell, has meant that we forgot that we the original purpose, and we forgot these characteristics and potentialities that lay dormant, obviously, within us. Do you understand? But if you see now, today, when we, let's say, more widely, I'm not talking about the average person, but more widely, where we are, you know what I mean, where we are getting wealth, we are getting maybe some freedoms that come with wealth or whatever. What are we doing with that money? Are we developing our talents and abilities, or are we making precious? You understand? So this is a thing, you know, that we're seeing, that, you know, others are pointing out and trying to say, listen, they're not worthy of the title or the characteristics or the status, yeah, that they are given as child of the Nefaru. Look at what they're doing. You understand? So other people on the planet are trying to pitch and say that we're not worthy. But you also have to understand the game that gets played, isn't it? Where certain groups or mankind groups, yeah, within the media and other things, yeah, are pushing certain narratives, understood, push funding, understand certain approaches, who they make successful or not make successful, yeah, to cause us humiliation, obviously an embarrassment, yeah, to make themselves look like to their overlords or extraterrestrials, listen, they're not worthy of that covenant or that title or what they have or whatever. Give that to us and we'll show you who and what we are. You understand? But you understand, their time has run out, and their overlords abandoned them for, you know, their nature and behaviours that have been done in the past. But one has to understand the context with certain things which are in. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, a question from Patsy. Is this reading taken from the Holy Tablets?
This read is not taken from the Holy Tablets, no. It's on its own. The one I just read is from a book called Master Secrets, Birth of the Earth and the Matrix, Series 1. So it's available on the website or any All Eyes on Egypt store. You should be able to get that. Master Secret, yeah, series of books. Birth of the Earth and the Matrix. Maybe Haran, if you could type that in the chat. Birth of the Earth and the Matrix, Master Secret #1.
No further questions.
Okay, so what we see here in verse 78 says, now the Nuwapians, before making his 6,000 years ago, and over in Africa 54,000 years ago, the Patahites, black race, and our feminine were encoded with speech and able to speak and taught masculine to speak. Yeah, so effectively, so these were tests carried out by the Natharu on the African grey parrot, which you see the sort of picture there. Yeah, African grey parrot here. And the baboon was used, yeah, to test the upgrade, basically. So the females were given a voice box, or that was activated to grow a voice box within the females. But it was tested on the African grey parrot and the baboon in the first instance, you understand? Now, a gene on the 7th chromosome referred to as the foxhead, foxhead box protein, yeah, or FOX P2 was activated. It's on the 7th chromosome, and this allowed us basically to go from a clicking language, as you know, like they speak in South Africa, called Khoisan, to now more complicated sounds and more complicated speech. But it was tested on two particular life forms in the first instance. This article or blog article is quite interesting, you understand, because what it's showing you here, it says baboons giving the gift of language, Thoth overseeing and scribing the work. So here they've recorded this fact that, giving a gift of language, but in actuality, the true event behind it is that, as I say, they tested complex speech on these life forms. If you know, with baboons, for example, when the sun appears to rise in the morning, obviously it's like a form of prayer, I suppose. They shout out or scream out or make noise, obviously in relation to the rise of the sun. Do you understand? And so the baboons associated with certain deities like Tahuti, for example, in relation to that. But it relates back to this project of upgrading, understood, our vocal cords to allow complex speech around about 54,000 years ago. So women, spoke first, and men drew first around about 1,000 years later. Do you understand? But obviously, to get to this point of complex speech, you understand, it's taken a long time. So it's not something that's just happened overnight. You understand? It's trillions of years into millions of years of growth, in terms of this relocation into planet Earth. Understood? Yeah. 79. It says it was 48,000 years ago that Ptah's feminites in Africa were again encoded to reverse her body from sex on the knees to sexual acts on her back. 80. This was done by Parnatharu or Muntharu. 81. This changed how women walked and gave birth. 82. As well as keeping a physical record of speech to write as found today in Africa. So we'll probably get into it more in later classes. But one of the things with mitochondrial DNA in and of itself, it's a combination, obviously, of bacteria and germs and DNA with interactions between different life forms on that level. 9 billion interactions of various types that have led to complex life forms such as mitochondrial DNA. But one of the characteristics of it, related even into this story, was that they can trigger certain beings, interdimensional beings are able to trigger or hide, let's say, developments within those genes. So they can program them, those capabilities lay dormant within the genes, and then from another dimension, if they want to, they can turn a switch or whatever and upgrade and kick into motion, understood, certain upgrades or even downgrades, if they so choose to, within the genome, understood. Just spare me 1 second, sorry. Apologies about that. So they can trigger certain changes within the genome interdimensionally. And so when we get into more into this story, you'll see why. So, for example, even in the Adamite, they had to be able to hide a certain disease within the genome because obviously, once it's scanned, it will be detected. Do you understand? So, it needed a methodology to be able to hide the weaponized virus within that particular life form to be able to switch it on after that food source, for example, had passed through a certain scan. So this technological approach is also, as I say, can be switched on within the Nagaru genes. And obviously in this particular instance, what did we see? We saw the development of more complex speech at the right time, as I say, tested on these two life forms. Now, so it says, this changed how women, 81, this changed how women walked and gave birth. 82, as well as keeping physical record of speech to write as found today in Africa. And one of the problems that we as Nagaru face today is that we don't, like when we're trying to organise amongst each other, we don't like to plan properly, you understand, or keep records of plans. We love talking, you understand, but writing down a plan, writing down ideas, writing down things so we can coordinate with each other. Because you say one thing on Monday, for example, by Friday you forget what you might have a great conversation, in a group, and then by Friday now everybody forgets what it was, and then it leads to inefficiencies. And when you meet again, or what was the last thing you were speaking about, what were the last actions everybody was trying to do, etc., etc. So, our ancestors wrote down everything and recorded it on the walls for time immemorial. So we kept records, isn't it? So everybody wants to be the boss, but no one wants to be the secretary, which is probably one of the most important, if not the most important position, which is keeping the records. Because you need to go back over things and plan, and if there's mistakes that happen, you need to go back and review where did it go wrong, so you can try a different set of approaches. Do you understand? So you need to take much more importance on planning, but also keeping decent or accurate records. You understand? Because they'll tell you many a great CEO or many a great person, when you look at them, look at their PA. Do you understand? And oftentimes this was a woman, wasn't it, in these roles or whatever, that really makes certain things tick. So look at a great person, look at the PA or the supporting acts in and around that help with all the organisation. So record keeping is really important as you hear the word, because Amun, remember, is spent energies as thought and sound. But when you see Amun depicted as Min, what do you see? You see an upright man with an erect penis or phallus. Understood? So think about when you Amun, when you add Min, Min is the delivery device. Understood? So add Min, is Amun, spent energies as thought and sound. But you need to add it into, or change its format, or change it into a mode or a method or a record, you understand, or medium that obviously it can be shared, you understand, it can be distributed, it can be retained for long sort of periods of time, do you understand? Obviously, like here, talking today to you for however many hours, we're relaying a lot of different information, do you understand? Yes, most of you might be able to retain a lot of what we're saying, but the benefit of, it's recorded, it then goes into a class on YouTube or some other format or whatever, and then you can go and then review it and go back over it, or you can cross-reference it with the books that we've been talking about. Do you understand? You're going to remember that a lot more than trying to listen trying to retain it back in memory. You got to really be an exceptional person, develop your talents. Some people do have photographic memories in that regard, but to cross-reference, you've got to become kind of exceptional beings. So if we keep records, and we've, Master Teacher's taken, that's where the love comes in, isn't it? From him relaying, obviously, and then the administration and working through and putting those into some books with pictures and stuff like that and written down. Obviously, that's what makes you have the ability to study it, seek confirmation. Do you understand? That's where the real love comes in, by converting it to a format that can be shared amongst the masses. Do you understand? So, record keeping is exceptionally important. Do you understand? Or the admin. We must add min, to Amun, in order to transform, as I say, into a medium that can be shared amongst the masses, you understand? So this was the change that they made, because Honorable Elijah Muhammad, for example, was a great orator, isn't it? A great speaker. And now when you get to the Al-Mujaddid, or the Reformer, or the Mujaddud, or Jaddad, you understand? The Reformer, now you get to what? A prolific writer, a prolific author, you understand, as Tahuti, you understand, who was known as, or also known as Amun-Nababre Akhtar, understood, and then prolific writer, because the records now, as you know, you try and take somebody out, or in this case, imprison the person, or whatever, you understand, if it was just speech, like we heard when the class first started, if it was just speech, a lot of the knowledge or whatever would be lost, wouldn't it? So obviously the fact that it's in various different scrolls and books, etc., its ability to be preserved and shared is a lot greater. Yeah. So it says, so 82, as well as keeping physical and record of speech to write as found to date in Africa. 83, now back to the time of the Adamites in 15,000 BC. The Kamau, Mukmau Pleiadians, the pale white extraterrestrial, met with the Galactic Federation over this planet here on Project 24 to request to make a slave worker. 84, grafted, they made many mistakes, and we were talking about this earlier, weren't we? Grafted, they made many mistakes and bred deformed humans and beast creatures that were deserted and left to wander this planet for years. 85, many died out, yet some still remain, and even born, being it's in their DNA. 86, by 9000 BC, they had a formula from Inki, who got it from the Africans. 87, so by 4000 BC, they made or bred the Adamite, one male Kuth and one female Lilith. 88, Kuth was a Dravad in the East Indian, and Lilith was an Anaku, Anunnaki, Anakim, and she birthed a man. Yeah, Job 14, 1. 90. So you see in English man, yet in Hebrew it has Adam. Hebrew Strong's number 120. That is born of woman, is of a few days. Yeah, 930 years from 130 years. So 930 relates to the beings at some point live longer, but 930 years relates to how long the name lived also, you understand? So how long the tribal name lived versus how long the physical being lived, you understand? So Genesis chapter 5 verses 3 to 5, and full of trouble, Genesis 3 chapter 17 to 18. 91, their own Bible says Adam was born of women, and they mistranslate to hide this fact by saying man, where in Hebrew is Adam. And so we see this game playing, as we touched upon earlier, isn't it? Because they sometimes interchange. Yeah, so really and truly, if you see the word Adam, excuse me, they should either say if they use the word Adam, for example, then Adam is still in Hebrew. So if you've got an English translation, for example, yes, then you should translate everything into English, isn't it? But what they do to make you think like man and Adam are two different things, until you get into the Hebrew language, or use a concordance or whatever and get into the language, you see, right, it's Adam. They've left it untranslated, you understand? So now we've got people named Adam, you understand, and so on and so forth, not realizing that this is a Hebrew word. Obviously it's not an English word. Yes, they've left it untranslated to hide that fact. So in their own Bible says Adam was born of women, and they mistranslate to hide this fact by saying man, when in Hebrew it's Adam. Male Kuth, female Lilith, and then the the child of that is Adapa. 92, born in Kadesh and was red ruddy all over, so they called him Adam. A monk, or monkey, looking with red fur all over, that turned dark after growth of his fur and his skin darkened. 93, they chose a mate for him who was born of male, female, Path, and Anath, Titi. 94, born in Becca, she was able to give birth, so they called her Hawa, Eve, life giver, Anun. 95. So you see, Adamites were only made by request. 96. And the Mukma'u Pleiadians let their makers breed with them, porcine, canine, and simian. 97. This bred the Edomite races, who in turn mixed with the Israelites and Ishmaelites. 98. And the sons of Elohim raped the daughters of Adam, or Adam's sons, Seth's sons, Enos, and bred a race of jinn or humanoid devils. 99. This human's kind or man's kind, human beast, man's kin. So we've got, we touched upon this earlier. So the Patahites and the Kuthites, Watusi, old school name there. Atum, Lilith, Adapas, getting the proper names there. Ptah, Anath, understood, and then we know that, these Anunnaki, then we see there's interception in the genes in this particular instance. So Cain is not the father of, Adam is not the father of Cain. We get this being named Nanar, name means master of fire, El Shaddai, who mixed in with Eve, according to their story, and produced Cain. Understood? And this is one of the reasons, I think it's in Matthew chapter 1, in fact, where it gives you the lineage of Jesus, as they refer to it as, all the way back to Adam, and Cain is not mentioned there or pointed out because his father basically is not Adam. You understand? She talks about being given a child. The Lord, you understand, gave her a child. That Lord being mentioned there is this being named Nanar, Master of Fire, who basically they, in their doctrine, is who they're referring to as the devil. But they just say Jesus and the devil, or God and the devil, in one and the same being. So when you really look into the language. So the word Al Shaddai means as what they're referring to as Almighty. And saying that Almighty, this is what that really, but the word Shad, or the root SD SHD there, Shad, the root, it means demon. You understand? So this is the being of Isaiah 14, chapter 12, and then let's say Revelation 22, verse 16, as a bright morning star. So Cain, Canaan, you see Cain and twins. Remember the children at that time were being born as twins, which is why women have two mammary glands or breasts. So we've got a dual seed kind of taking place here that we are looking at. You understand? That makes up this tribe of Adamites. So again, in relation to some of the questions there, we see the rib, being taken out, as we touched upon earlier, to graft, or make the two seeds compatible, so that basically these offspring, or these Adamites, could, as I say, procreate by themselves, you understand, and produce obviously another Adamite. And we touched upon this last week. Remember, there was a disagreement between Enki or Nunamir and Enlil, Nunamir, and Enki, Nudamud, because, as I say, he did not want, or Enlil did not want, these Adamites have the ability to procreate on their own. Enki was in disagreement with that. And so, like animals today, as I say, they breed within a certain season. Do you understand? So they're triggered. They're triggered by the seasons. Understood? Which then locks in to obviously certain etheric instructions that come through, and then, as I say, they act accordingly. Do you understand? These hormones are released, and they act accordingly. Do you understand? It's mating season, as we say. But in the case of these Adamites, Enki wanted them to have their ability to procreate on their own. Do you understand? Like we as human beings do today, don't have to wait for the right season. We'll do it any time, mostly out of lust, if we're honest. Now, verse 100 says, so by request, the white race was made, and their women, Adamite women, were raped by the sons of the Elohim deities. Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 to 5. The Ikiki or Igigi cherubim and birthed a new breed, Gibor, of wicked, evil nature, race of devils. Yeah, so this is from the Bible, Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 to 5. You can read that in your own time. But the offspring of that, remember, this is what they're referring to as giants. And also what you find is in the book of First Enoch, it goes into more detail about the characteristics, obviously, of this forcible meshing of genes here. Do you understand? In that regard, that they were, out of that lineage or line, their appetite was insatiable, and as it's expressed, they didn't just have a taste for animal flesh, but eventually almost human flesh to satisfy this insatiable appetite that was produced by this combination of these two extraterrestrial, obviously, in part are human beings. And so, their genes must have been compatible for them to produce children. Understood? Yeah. So anyway, Nephilim, you see fallen ones, giants there, the Enoshites, forgetful mortals, and obviously the daughters of Adam, that's them coming together, and this is what they produced. You understand? These mighty ones, all out of the seed of Noah, as we see on the screen there. And then obviously from Shem, one of the so-called triplets, you understand? Obviously, it's Abraham's seed, and then, in fact, by way of a rape, Abraham raped an Egyptian woman by the name of Hagar, understood, and that produced the Arabs out of that seed all the way down. And then, obviously, on the flip side of that, we've got Isaac, and that out of Jacob obviously produced the Israelites. You understand? So you've got these two sides of the family by that side. So here it says 101, by the times, these are the seeds of Mesopotamia, their religions from Sumeria of Babylonians, aliens, they call gods in their Bible and Quran, outdated books, out of due time, expired. So you can see you're getting what's uncovered there probably fairly simply now, when we're probably reading it now with our eyes and third eyes open, but how much confusion, how much discussions have taken place about Adam and Eve and on all of that sort of stuff, etc. So it's been a myriad of confusion, and even then, you understand, it still probably causes confusion because how many times the story's been told from different perspectives, so on and so forth, and the fact that you've got different Adams as well. So it's not just exclusive name. Remember, it means from Adam means red, ruddy, understood. Adama means of the ground. So it's dealing with earthlings and different types of earthlings. And as you can see, it's been translated to mean man. Obviously, man can be inclusive of woman. A man can be talking about different eras. You understand? You could be talking about Romans, this, that, so on and so forth. So you can see where the confusion comes in. So always think, oftentimes we're looking certainly at some of these biblical stories, that it's pluralized oftentimes. You're not necessarily always just talking about one group or one set of people. So, okay, any questions?
No questions at the moment.
Okay, so so let's delve a little bit more into these Anunnaki and look at that relationship. The end of that touched upon the Pleiadians. That was good. So we're getting a bit more know-how of who they are, and we'll touch into what they look like and things of that nature as well. We're going to get into a bit more about the Anunnaki and the Anuna and who those are. So just as a reminder, remember, in fact, let me start that one. So you can see here, this is called a Layla on the Throne. We have read this before, but I think it's worth going back over it again. So there's a lot of new people who probably haven't gone through it, but it says, greetings to you, my beloved Nwapu, yeah, Shalel, it's a Nwapu with their dealing with the people, Shalel of Wunuwap, yeah, so us of the spiritual science of Wunuwap. Often I am asked about Alelu, yeah, so this is the brother of who they're referring to as the Most High God in the Sumerian doctrine, you understand, who would be the Most High, effective the Bible, and the El of Psalms 82, verse 1, yeah. So Alelu says, so Nurimud answered, yeah, Inki, there's Inki's real name, said, answered, Ningish Jida, yeah, one of his sons, yeah, equivalent to Tahuti, with this discussion for you to know, yeah. So we're interested about this clash between two brothers, yeah, which we oftentimes see in the monotheistic religious records, don't we? See fighting between two brothers. Often the older brother got stitched up, you understand, and the younger brother inherited what was supposed to be their birthright, isn't it? So this is what we see. We see this kind of conflict between the brothers copied through various different generations, in terms of the story. But you see, from Ningish Jida, so what we see is this combination, yeah, of the Natharu side, you understand, or where we're originally from, and then we've got this Anunnaki or Anuna side, you understand, contained within the same being. Because as we did touch upon maybe last time, where Inky mixed his seed in with the Sands people, you understand, or Ptah Heights, and then Sands people in Africa, you understand. So we have the nature of both sides within, you understand, even though they are opposing forces. We have the nature of both within. Hence why the teacher had to be designed, understood, to deal with or be capable of dealing with the natures of both sides, yeah, of our genes. Understand? This is before you get into the opposing ideologies that we see not only in the Sumerian texts, but also in that's then followed on or been grafted into the biblical and then sort of Quranic texts following on. So we've got a being that was developed, developed and the doctrine shaped to deal with, let's say, both of our natures. Now the genes have been scrambled. And obviously different characteristics there. Obviously Pleiadians, the Dapper there, and you see then our equivalent then is Ptah. You understand? We obviously gave credence to when we were talking when we introduced Paa Taraq earlier. So Ta, obviously, in terms of our physical form and structure, this is what that relates to. Yeah, a humanoid form based broadly on the number 3. We can see that obviously in giving birth to the original races as opposed to the grafted man. You understand? The created races as opposed to the made or grafted man. With our thing is based on facts, confirmation, and interest in the source or origin of where things come from. So remember, we are originators. Yeah, so we're interested in original rights, not copyrights. Understand? So those who copy, interested in the copyrights. You understand? Because their thing is a mimic situation, and theology and faith and beliefs are the forefront of their religions. So, and again, looking at what birthed out of those two or those combinations, do you understand? Inside that, we will revisit back this diagram in a bit more detail in future parts. But as a complete differentiation between the races, all this everybody's the same under the skin is just simply not true, because she wasn't designed by the same people. You understand? So they had different plans, different objectives, understood, and some, as I say, were done in line with, respect of the rules of this environment, as policed, like a better word, by the Mozaku or Riskians, and others were not. So it's One is unnatural and one is considered natural. Understood? Just in terms of the approach and technology that was used. So combining animal and human DNA would be an absolute no-no, obviously, in terms of the natural rules, because it creates diseases and other things within the environment. So nature itself, or the cybernetic system that runs this planet, and the intelligence that sits behind the planet is called Gaia, would effectively trigger an immune response from the planet to try and take out hybrids in that way, or whether it combines, I should say, animal parts with that of a human being. Sorry, Lord of the Bee, Lord of the Fly relates to the two brothers, and we'll get more into that as we step from this. Enki and Enlil, particularly not Alelu and Anu. Right, okay. All right. So, any questions?
Yes, there's a question from Bata Amun-Ray, and I think this refers to something you spoke about just a few minutes ago. It says, how many sets of Adam are we dealing with?
Let me just go into the laboratory 1 second. So, if you're dealing with from the Anunnaki down, then you're dealing with 15 generations. Let me see if we can find this really quickly. Okay, I might have my glasses at the moment, so let's just see if I can read this. Whilst I'm looking for that, is there any other questions?
There are no other questions at the moment.
Okay. I need to find. I think it's 16. I think it's 16. But I need to find the verse. Yeah, I think it's 15. Leave that one with me. I don't need to find the verse. But I think it's 15 or 16 generations before we get down, or before it allowed them to perfect. Yeah, the approach. Certainly from the Anunnaki side is about 15, I think, generations, because there was in chapter 2 you read about an individual by the name of Jeshtu. So they came obviously well before Jeshtu, excuse me. And Jeshtu was an individual who sacrificed his genes he sacrificed his genes basically to merge his genes with the simian, do you understand, or the monkey, to produce, do you understand, or upgrade that being to get to Homo erectus, do you understand? So at that particular time, so he would be an Adam, understood, of that type as well, because he was mixing his genes with what they consider to be a lower life form in order to start the progression of this sort of intelligent worker. So obviously by the time you get down to the Pleiadians, that's a different set of reasoning from the original, but when the Anunnaki came and wanted to create a being in their image and after their likeness, they wanted to create an intelligent worker to mine gold for them. Do you understand? So which was a different purpose to the Adamite really for the Pleiadians, you understand, which was an alternative food source because they were the food. And obviously, because some of these projects they're reusing some of the same technology, because here obviously the being is, what's the word, obviously ready made, obviously already made for this environment. You're not going to start from scratch, are you? You're going to kidnap somebody's life form, study their genes, and basically start to clone, graft, replicate. You're not necessarily starting from scratch in that regard. So yeah, I'll find it. I think it's 15 or 16 is the answer to that, but I'll clarify if it's not this one, and I'll correct it out for the next class. I can't quite see that verse at the moment. Okay, cool. But it's in Holy Tablets chapter. It will be in Holy Tablets chapter 5. Yeah. Excuse me for exact reference. Okay. Anything else?
Yes, there's another question. It's in the chat, but the question says, so is it Anu or Alalu who is the biblical Most High?
So the biblical Most High will be dealing with Anu, because Alelu lost, which we're probably going to read about if we get time, but Alelu lost the fight for the throne. Do you understand? But what happened is that Alelu, relocated to Earth basically, and established a base in South America, and a number of different projects in that continent, do you understand, as well as the base on Mars, do you understand? So, which is Alelu, but the biblical Most High would be Anu, not Alelu, because Alelu basically lost his fight for the throne. So although he's a brother of the Most High, he himself is not considered to be the Most High. Yep. Okay. Right. Okay. This is Holy Tablets, chapter 5. Chapter 5, tablet 1. Tablet 1, or page 440, verse 36, in relation to the question. So it says, also the agreeable mortals Paa Taraq and his wife Anath were taken from the white and blue Nile to Nippur, which is one of the cities in Kadesh. So this is the Anunnaki version records of this particular story and of events. And this was for the purpose to breed a daughter. They were to be placed in different places, so they, Cadman and the Cable, would know each other until they are at the right age, 21 for him and 18 for her. 37. After the birth of a daughter of mixed seed, for her seed or blood was from Cadman's own marrow, bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh, and they called her Nekabel, who was also mixed with the Cushite from Paa Taraq and the Havilaite from Anath, who were her parents. The actual genetic breeding and splicing of the cells of Cadman begun and was done in a laboratory on the planet Lahmu, Mars, in a laboratory called Shimti. Thus it is said that Cadman was created in the heavens before Earth. How was this great task undertaken? When the scientists took the seed of Ninti and bred with her Adiru, the Homo sapien, the 16th seed of the Adama project, after taking genus Homo to Homo erectus to Homo sapien. The Homo sapien was mixed with the seed of the Anunnakis. This was the process when this new seed, Ninti and Adiru, was ready for transport from the heavens to key Earth. It was brought down to the planet Earth, and this gene or cell was genetically spliced into the DNA of Atum, the ruler of the Adamites, and also into the DNA of the ruler of the Kishites. And so you can see, 16 seeds, you understand, or 16 generations, you understand, before you're getting down to the Yeah, the ones that the elements we've been spoken of. So a significant investment over time into these various projects. It wasn't just an overnight scenario, which kind of there's this idea of some being or deity clicking their fingers and things just naturally come into existence. These are scientists, you understand, working through things over time. And sometimes, as I think we touched upon last time, you have got projects that people may have left behind, and other extraterrestrials are picking up remnants of it, or records, or even, as I say, kidnapping individuals and saying, let me study what they've done, and then, as I say, to try and speed up whatever it is their project is to get quicker results. Okay, so any other questions?
No other questions currently.
Okay, let's continue then. So it says, one, many millions of years ago, a planet in a faraway universe that had accepted different other aliens began to have internal conflicts and was at a point in time where one of the groups ignited a destructive device and all had to desert the planet. So this is where we're talking about this, where they fired this sort of shield depleter at this planet Rizq in the 19th galaxy, 8th planet in the 19th galaxy, tri-solar system, and it basically damaged the dome, and many different races living on that planet, or species I should say, living on that planet, then had to relocate and flee until that dome could be repaired. Some chose many smaller crafts, while one group, Anakim, chose to construct a planet-type craft called En Ibiru. 2. They constructed it outside their own planet as a space station and placed a force field shield around it of gold dust to protect it as it travelled seeking a home planet to settle. 3. Those were very highly developed beings. 4. They reached their reach this side of the universe and moved into an orbit. 5. Because of mixing with other aliens while on their home planet, the Meldikians, who were of the group of draconian species, birthed Homo saurus. They shared this new planet craft, Nibiru, as it crossed the universe. 6. Yeah, so this is where it gets interesting. So it says there were 2 groups that ruled their own species. 1, Anuna, humanoids, and 2, Tanan. So one of the things here is that we use the term Anunnaki, yes, but as remember, Anunnaki is really an event more than as a species. You understand? I mean, those two who Anu sent to Earth in 50s, understood? But sometimes it can be used as a catch-all. People just say Anunnaki, you understand? But in actuality, it's really referencing a specific event or project, or not project, mission, understand, that took place where Anu sent certain Anuna, obviously, to the planet in that regard. Excuse me. Yeah, or groups here. Not that Anunnaki is referenced for all of it, but obviously, of course, that's the most popular name, and that's what they're known as, etc. We just need to know that distinction. So 6. These are 2 groups that ruled their own species. 1, Anuna, humanoids. 2, Tanan, reptilianoids. 7. So this new planet craft, Nibiru, and Ibiru was divided into 2 large factions. 8, the North and the South. 9, and the time the species of the North, Tananu, made war with the species of the South, Anaku. 10. This conflict is long and fierce, with much destruction on both sides. 11. But as this planet craft orbited the sun in this new solar system in an elongated path, 12. It spent a long time far from the sun of this solar system. 13. Whilst it was near the sun, the planet craft became very heated. 14. Whilst it was far from the sun, the planet craft became very cold in deep space. 15. The Mutananu preferred the deep space. and Nu Pamuanaku preferred the heat of the sun. So we've got these two, the Anuna, preferred it when it's hot, you understand, and the reptilians, preferred it when it was cold, you understand, So based on the orbit of this planet, large orbit of this planet. 16. This caused much conflicts because of the changing of atmosphere. This caused renewed problems, but also a constant stream of volcanic eruptions like explosions. 17. The gold dust cloud formed a thick vapor canopy that retained the heat and reflected the light. This pleased Paa Naku and displeased Paa Tananu. The shield deflected away harmful cosmic rays and was good for climate control. Even gave rays or rise to lakes, streams, and lush vegetation for surface dwellers. Yet mad Tananu were dwellers beneath the waters or beneath the surfaces in caves and caverns. 18. This caused much conflict on Nibiru between the two species and their visiting associates. Both groups had their own aliens from other star systems who would come to Nibiru and stay or visit Nibiru, such as the Modbabu, lizard men, the Mudganu, fish men, the Muftaru, insect men, as well as different species of Murmadu, greys, and Mutanu, who were also mixed, Mudganu, who would kidnap and abduct some of the greys from Zeta Reticulum, a group of reptilians referred to as the Muzafu, would take them, and they were visitors of the Anaku, not the Tananu. This also caused much conflict between the two groups on and inside Nibiru. 19. To escape the conflicts, aliens had to wait until Nibiru crossed into this solar system and jump by crafts to other planets and their moons, such as Telachmu Mars, Lahamu Venus, Kisha Jupiter and its moon Europa, Anshar Saturn's moon Titan, and Enceladus. So, well, in fact, it's going to come on to speak on that. So remember, at one time, this craft ship Nibiru had an orbit of around about 25,920 years. But after the crash, I was going to read in verse 21, that orbit changed, you understand, to 3,600 years to the Orion star constellation and 3,600 years, to Orion star constellation to this solar system, and then 3,600 years back again. Understood? So any questions?
Yes, there is a question. Let's see. It says, this is from Patty, it says, this sounds very much like Star Wars to me.
Not quite in relation to this story. I'm trying to think of the story of Star Wars. Not saying it's not. There's not relevant aspects to it. But no, this story is not quite. It's not quite Star Wars. It's not quite Star. Not for this. There are other movies that are probably likely to be closer to this story, but not Star Wars. Star Wars is more to do. I'm trying to think. I've watched this many times, but yeah, Star Wars is probably more to do in thinking about the story of it. Yes, basically Star Wars, Harry Potter, Matrix, Terminator, they're all the same story. They're all the same movie. Yeah, they're all the same movie. So that those stories or whatever and that relates to a certain event which arose out of ancient Egypt, which the Master Teacher explained has travelled, made its way around the world. Understood? So those films are all the same story. They're all the same movie. Yeah, if you really look at what's being conveyed. Yeah, if you study those movies, they're all the same film. With different, how can I say, different ways in which they're displayed, but they're all the same movie. Now,
there's a follow-up, and she also says, and X-Men.
The X-Men story is a little bit different, because the X-Men story really is talking about I suppose maybe a group of mutants or group of people, isn't it, persecuted by the masses, but they've got special abilities and special talents. As we explained, I think in part 1 of this class, the actual symbol of the X-Men is one of our symbols. It denotes it's a symbol for basically like a borough or a gnome or a district. You understand? So the real X-Men, if you really look at it, is to do with certain talents or abilities that that get triggered in what they refer to as mutations in human beings, but the double X chromosome, or the true X man, is the woman, isn't it? She's the double X chromosome. However, what we are missing in our genetics is something called white gold, or some refer to in their culture as the philosopher's stone. You understand? It's referring to white gold, which is what our ancestors at one time, the Natharu, when they incarnated physically on this planet, they had another gland as part of our endocrinal glandular system, referred to as the Barathri gland, which we touched upon, I think, in previous classes, or the last part of this class. But one of the characteristics of that gland is that it secreted monatomic elements or white gold into the bloodstream. Do you understand? So one of the ways in which, as you see in the symbolic story of Genesis chapter 3, where the serpent, or Ningishzida, do you understand, taught Eve about the red me stone, do you understand, which were these records kept under this tree of knowledge. Yeah, his delivery mechanism, do you understand, yes, was the phallus, isn't it, or the penis, understood? And when she partook of his white blood, you understand, which had those monotone elements in it, it transformed her from a mortal into a deity that was recognizable by those beings. Now, man has become one of us to know good and evil. So in our own context, we're missing this white gold. And this is why the Caucasian, and the Muadamu, etc., are looking, they're digging up the bones of our ancestors, their mummies, etc. Certain groups, for example, they crush the bones of bodies which they find mixed with water or some other liquid and drink it, thinking it will cure their ailments, because they know in certain records that we've kept in ancient Egypt. If you want more information about this, check out a book called Paa Taraq, about this white gold or monatomic elements, which basically the junk DNA in human beings, when we take things like monatomic gold, monatomic, what's the other element of it? Platinum, you understand? Rohemium, and these different types of elements, it activates, or it takes what junk DNA and basically reforms it and brings it into order, understood? And it makes the DNA strands, convey thought information, electrical information, up to 10,000 times faster than it currently is at the moment. So certain superhuman abilities are touched upon in the last class, like Goosebumps, for example, is evidence of our ability to previously to regrow limbs. So really, the X-Men story, as you know, is touching upon the conflict that took place in the 60s, sort of Black Power movement, etc. So it's really talking about, it's a kind of pseudonym, or was a comparative study really about what was taking place then, but using obviously X-Men to show the plight of obviously blacks, you understand, at that time in the 60s. But the truth behind the X-Men or X chromosome, or the female or the woman, you understand, is this extra element obviously in both of our genes that's missing from the gland that was removed, called the Barafry gland, as I say, that secreted this white gold or monatomic elements, which basically, this is the true transformation, where what would be considered to be superhuman abilities and characteristics would be gifted back by way of us having the ability to produce this naturally within our bloodstream. Any other questions in relation to that?
Yes, there's another question from Paa Taraq, and I think this question refers to the crash of Nibiru or Nibiru. The question is, what was the reasoning of the distance change?
Because effectively, after the crash, Nibiru in that regard became part of this solar system. So I suppose broadly it became part of this solar system. So the crash obviously diverted its orbit, you understand, and so certain repairs to the planets had to be done. The moon had to be moved into a certain position to avoid a star holocaust, and they took the remnants of what was Meldic, understood, and then constructed it into an asteroid belt that's running through the center of the solar system. So Nibiru's orbit, because of the crash, obviously hitting certain planets now, became smaller, obviously, as a result of that. So physically, the physical diversion, but also the fact that it obviously become part of this solar system, as they refer to as the 12th planet, or some refer to as Planet X, etc. So after the crash, its orbits changed as a result of the crash. Yeah.
Okay, there's another question by Paa Taraq. Why is it that when the mafkuzat is put in a powdery form, it is said to weigh more than gold?
So say way more. Again, to answer that question, might be useful just to refer to the actual process. Just bear me 1 second. I'm going to the laboratory again. Right, so part of the process is that, remember, it's I don't think it weighs more. It just, because part of its mass is lost when it transforms. So maybe that's a certain observation by others. But part of it transforms into the spiritual realm, and basically the atoms that make it up are not able to reform. So it may have been gold, and it transforms back into a powder, because those atoms, when they get into a synchronous state of spin, are not able to reform back physically. But let's just get into it. So this is Paa Bananu. Yeah, Paa Bananu, Paa Taraq, Paa Bananu. That's P-A-A, separate word, yeah, Paa, and Bananu is spelled B-A-N-A-N-U. Yeah, B-A-N-A-N-U. If you can type that into the chat. Right, so let's go from verse. Let's go from verse. Go from verse 12. So it says it. So this is basically in our records, or in the papyrus of Ani. they talk about they're alluding to it. They're talking about this thing and saying, what is it? And the what is it is relating to this white gold. You understand? But they don't say what it is. You understand? They just keep referring to it, asking the question, what is it? You understand? So from verse 12, it was called, it's also, this is what it's saying what it is. Yeah. So verse 12, it was also called white dew, white condensate, or the white dove, depicted as the white feather in alchemical texts, and the symbol of the Paa soul bird, and the link to the Achach ethereal existence from the dove. So if you remember in Matthew chapter, what is it, Matthew chapter 2? Yeah, Matthew chapter 2, they talk about John the Baptist, yeah, baptizing Jesus with water. You remember? Yeah. And so, or for those who remember that story or familiar with that story, and then it says something like a dove. You remember? Something like a dove descended down. Yeah. And when this being named Jesus received this like a dove power, understood, descended from heavens, and then he went around healing people, doing miracles, so on and so forth. You understand? But some force, like a dove, yeah, descended down and it activated, yeah, something in this individual, understood, if you remember, who was a descendant of those part extraterrestrial, part human beings, you understand, related back to, isn't it, the mixing in Genesis chapter 6, understood, yeah? So, it says, yeah, the ethereal bird, ethereal soul, so the Paa, soul bird, and linked to the Achach, ethereal existence from the dove bird, through the ether cord to rebirth this elixir of life, Mafhuzet, secret ash, white powder of high spin gold, platinum group metals, iridium, rhodium, palladium, platinum, osmium, and ruthenium. 13. Now it is known that the high spin powder of good, pure Nabat or Nabet gold has a distinct effect upon the pineal gland, increasing melatonin production. Also, the monatomic powder of iridium has a similar effect on serotonin production. So you know that you produce melatonin by way of your pineal gland at night time, understood? And then serotonin production, you understand, by way of your pituitary gland, you produce that in the daytime, understood? This is why, unless you've got a medical reason, you wouldn't wear shades, you understand? Some people being cool, they wear shades in the daytime, where you're tricking the body to produce melatonin when you should be producing serotonin, understood? Yeah, but what this is showing here is that these monatomic elements cause a significant increase in production of both, yeah? Serotonin and melatonin, yeah? So, saying here, serotonin, the production of the pituitary gland, which reactivates the body's DNA, of the maimed gland, the Barafri gland, and junk DNA, reactivating full use of the brain and 4 higher senses. Yeah, 14. Genesis chapter 2, so remember we touched upon those last week, psychometry, telepathy, clairvoyance, and intuition, 4 higher senses. Intuition, quick perception of truth. Psychometry, object reading. Clairvoyance, interdimension, being able to see interdimensionally, so you can visualize or see something that's, so you might be 2,000 miles away, something may be taking place in a room, you're able to see what's taking place in that particular location or room. And then telepathy, obviously mind to mind, the ability to read other people's thoughts, understand? Yeah, so these are your 4 higher senses, which you add to the 5 gives you 9. 14, Genesis chapter 2 verse 9 to 14. Note, the good or Tob gold of the Bible is found in Ethiopia, Africa. 15. Now this is how it's done to transform good gold, convert it into sweet tasting, impalpable white powder. 16. You know the normal atom has around it a screening potential. 17. A positive plus screening produced by the nucleus. The majority of electrons going around the nucleus are within this screening potential, except for the very outer electrons. 18. However, the nucleus goes to the highward or high spin state when the positive screening potential expands to bring all the electrons under the control of the nucleus. Yeah, so basically, your protons, excuse me. So we've got our the electrons on the outer space, but in the nucleus or at the central is what it's explaining. We've obviously got our protons understood into the nucleus. You understand? But when it gets into the high spin state, understood, what it's describing as the screening potential, or of course they're all in the same I'm gonna say pull of force, let's say. But what happens is that screening potential then expands outwards, so it doesn't just cover the atoms that are within the nucleus. It now encompasses all of the atoms now within the orbit of the nucleus. You understand? So these outer electrons, it now encompasses those as well, and as a result of that, then some transformation happens. So so read that again. So it says, however, the nucleus goes into a highward or high spin state when the positive screening potential expands to bring all the electrons under the control of the nucleus. 19. Electrons travel around the nucleus in pairs, a spin forward electron and a spin reverse electron. However, when these come under the influence of the high spin nucleus, all of the spin forward electrons become correlated with the spin reverse electrons. 22. When perfectly correlated, the electrons turn to white light, pure white light, and it's impossible for the individual atoms in the high spin substance to link together. 23. Hence, they cannot reform as metal. Remember we touched upon that. They can't reform back into this what it was before as a material, you understand, as gold or whatever. It can't transform back into the metal again, because now everything's moving in correlation back with each other. You understand? So a change has happened as a result of this screening potential now encompassing all of the atoms within, in this case, obviously we're talking about gold or some other metal. Yeah. So hence they cannot reform as metal, and the whole remains simply in an impalpable white powder through these processes. 24. Its weight will rise and fall to hundreds of percent above its optimum weight and down to less than absolutely nothing. Its optimum weight is actually 56% of the weight from which it was transmuted. 25. And the other 44% becomes nothing except pure light and translates to another dimension beyond the physical world. 26. When it's placed upon a scale, it can outweigh its quantity in gold, yet when transported to ash, even the ma'at feather, it will tip the scales against a bab heart. So weightlessness, as well as the powder of the highwood firestone, it has the capability of raising human consciousness, yet it's also a monatomic superconductor with no gravitational attraction. So I won't go into the rest of it. You can get the book or read it, you understand? But when we were talking about those who are digging up the bodies of our ancient ancestors, like mummies and thing, and then taking the bones or whatever to try and get this monatomic gold, because it at one time say it was in the bloodstream of us, you understand, as Natharu. That's referred to as the Order of the White Rose. You understand? The Order of the White Rose are those who are looking for this, or bodies of our ancestors who had this and dig up their bones or whatever and crush them and drink them. So as you can see here, it has 56%. When it transforms back, it retains 56% of the weight. So 56% of the weight or the mass that it originally had. You understand? Yeah, and then 44% of it, as we were saying, has transformed into another dimension. Do you understand? So that's what it's saying there in 26. Yes, it can outweigh. You understand? It can. So it doesn't always, but it can outweigh the quantity of gold that it was originally transformed from. Understood? In that regard, I suppose, because of the density, the density, I suppose, is increased. Understood? But it doesn't always have that characteristic. Do you understand? Because obviously it's less mass than what it's missing. 44% of it has obviously become or transformed, obviously, into another dimension. Understood? So let's say that's why when it recombines, it turns into a powder. Understood? As opposed to it retaining its quality as gold. So they refer to this as monatomic elements now. See, this monatomic state as opposed to its original state as a metal. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
In the meantime, there are no further questions.
Okay, right. Okay, let's just finish this page and then I think we'll stop there. Yeah. So, seek out Paa Bananu for more detail. Oh, in fact, it's a master secret. In fact, called as well, Paa Bananu, and there's a master secret. I think it's called the Secret Elixir of Life. Mafkuzet. So it goes into it in even more detail. But that basic principle is dealing with that transformation is how that works. So the dust cloud, let's go from 17. So the dust cloud formed a thick vapor canopy that retained heat and reflected light. This displeased the Anaku, Paa Anaku, and displeased Paa Tananu. So remember, the Paa Anaku like the heat, Paa Tananu like the cold. The shield deflected away harmful cosmic rays and was good for climate control. In fact, we've read a lot of that there, haven't we? Let's go down to 19. Yep. So the escape. To escape the conflicts, aliens had to wait until Nibiru crossed into this solar system and jump by crafts to other planets and their moons, such as Lahmu Mars and Lahmu Venus, and Kishar Jupiter and its moon Europa, and Anshar Saturn's moons Titan and Enceladus. Some others made it to Orion's many star systems or Sirius star systems, and this caused another war on Nibiru. 20. This war again included great weapons of destruction, one of which caused the shield to deplete, a great fear of the Anaku, yet not for the Tananu. So because, as we can see here, when the shield is depleting, it makes the planet colder. Yes. 21. The destruction spread widespread, and for several cycles, as Nibiru made its orbit of 3,600 years to pass near this Milky Way and send inside this solar system smaller Nibiru crafts to investigate. 22. So desolation was widespread, effect all who dwelled on this planet craft. So you can see it must have been tremendous in size. You understand this version of Nibiru that they were both on. Understood? 22. So this desolation was widespread effect on all who dwelled on the planet craft, as well as those Etherians who oversaw yet stayed in the heavens about each planet that they visited. 23. Much life was being diminished because of this. The overseers, the provider Mozaku or Razaku, informed them all that a truce must take place, or the whole planet, and its many fleets will be destroyed by the galactic order and confederation of systems, whom over which presides Paa Mozaku from the highest abode. So I think Patar was the one. I think asked a question last week, and what we was explaining was the fact that something as significant as this, they get involved. Yeah, the Mozaku, get involved, and obviously a bit like maybe the UN or whatever, maybe not as weak as the UN, but they're more powerful, obviously, than our weak UN. But they get involved in issues, and a warning's given, and they intervene directly. And in some issues, someone may try to call upon them, and the issue's not of significance, or it's not within what they may be considered their remit, and so may say, listen, you've got to solve this. You solve that problem yourself. This is not relevant for us. Do you understand? So in this instance, so much destruction was being caused by the infighting on this planet, understood, that basically they had to intervene, in the sand, and or warn them that, listen, fix up or you're going to get taken out. 24. This truce was enforced, and it was declared a peace treaty negotiated between the Mudganu and the Anaku. The Tananu refused to cooperate and was banished back to the Draco star system. So you can see why they're no longer a part of things. 25. And it was agreed that this planetary government would be formed with one ruler and not two as before, as absolute sovereign over all of Nibiru. 23. So remember, one ruled south, of the Anuna, and below, obviously, the Tananu, there was a separate ruler. Understand? So this was changing now. So there will be one ruler over all of Nibiru. Understood? Yeah. And so that would be their most high god over Nibiru, the whole planet. Understood? So, 26. So each side presented a candidate, and after drawing lots, the ruler was selected from the north. Understood? Yeah. 27. The first ruler after peace was made, a powerful being of the north, yet must take a female of the ruling family from the south, who would have a voice in the treatment of the south. 28. She would rule by his side, equal in power as one flesh. 29. A new team quickly built a new city called Agade. Unity is what it meant in their language. 30. They then set out the task of restoring order. All was well for a time. 31. Because of so many males who died in the many wars, it was made a rule that each Anaku and Danganu take up more than one female, yet the very first wife should be the legal spouse of his own species, preferred a sister by one of his own parents. 32. This again caused problems in succession by the fact that if the consort not of the same species had a first son, does the consort or concubine son take the throne if already married and having had a first son by the wife of his own species, the throne would then be ruled by one side, conflict clearly. So basically, so remember, in essence, basically, so the north, if you look at the two factions, so the north was Tananu, and then south was Anaku, yes? But in this ruling, they were supposed to take, remember, one species was supposed to be from the north, take rulership, you understand? Take rulership, and then take a wife, isn't it? From the south. So take the ruler in the north when they drew lots, first ruler from the north, take wife from the south. But then what happened is that they introduced a rule that the first wife would be of their own species. You understand? So if you're a ruler of the north, you take a wife from the north, but your consort now would be from the south. So the issue was, if I then have a child, yes, from as a product of the ruler and his first wife, yes, does that offspring then take then rulership of, you understand, Nibiru, or does the child of the ruler and his consort, which would be from, in this case, from the south, not the north, the opposite side, does that child rule? So this was the issue that was causing some confusion, or conflict, between the parties. And I just want to get to this point to show you the difference of what the Mozaku get involved in and what they don't. So it says, so will be ruled by one side, conflict clearly. 33. By the time the fifth ruler of Nibiru, Enshar, things started to deteriorate. So here, showing the rulers, showing the rulers between the parties. So An, Antu, An, Ib, and Nin, Ib, Anshar Gal, and Kishar Gal. This is Kishar Gal. And here it's saying that Kishar Gal had a son, Alam Mugdanu, and is the father of Alelu. In this, that's how he gets his royal lineage. Fourth, Anshar Kishar, which is Anu's mother and father, and then Enshar and Ninshar. Understood? So in fact, 34. The fact that Anshar Gal had a first son named Alam by a consort of a different species, and this son had a son named Alelu, who was the daughter of Damkina. 35. In the reign of Anshar IV, conflict and working together stopped. 36. So Enshar V called out to the Mozaku to call a meeting on Nibiru. They incarnated into human form as the electoral elite of all the supreme beings of the Emerald Illumination, called down in form for an emergency meeting at Agada. Remember, this means unity. And the unity was broken. 37. It became their own problem, not easy to contain. The Razaku decided, being it was a physical problem, they have to solve it peacefully, and physically departed. So, as we were explaining last week, certain things they get involved in, like when this war was taking place, but when it came to the matter of succession, although for them it felt like a complex issue, they wasn't getting involved with that particular matter, and so they had to solve that problem themselves. So right, okay, so I think we'll go over time, so let's stop there. Is there any other questions before we close then?
No other questions.
Okay, so next class in 2 weeks' time. I think it's a different subject matter, not continue this. So this one will, unless that happens, this one will continue after that part to start to go into it. So you're getting a flavour. So we've gone through who the Riskians are and the Mozaku and who the Natharu are as the same beings. You're getting a little bit of a flavour of who the Pleiadians are, because we touched upon their project with the creation of their Adam in their image and after their likeness, and now you're getting into, well, who are these who collectively I suppose are being called the Anunnaki, but really it's a Naku. An Anunnaki is an event, you understand? So a Naku, and you're getting into those, and then we'll step into the reptilians as the next part, so make that clear, and then delve into the Pleiadians in a bit more detail. But we've already seen a little bit of their motivation. But in relation to this particular Paa Taraq, a certain event that took place which caused a major war on the planet, and that's what we're sort of building up. So you know who all the different players are involved in relation to this particular record that took place, as I said, around 12 12,000 or so years ago. Okay, so that's it. We'll get these up, so probably over the next week in relation to the recording of these classes. So if you want to go back over them in that regard, then feel free to do so. Some of the books we touched upon today, I think have been placed in the chat. So Paa Bananu, and there's a Master Secret of a similar type as well. Say that if people want more on this Math Kuzat, which, as I say, is part of our transformation journey, will have to be restored back to us when that barafry gland is placed back in the submental area underneath your soft part of your chin, underneath your chin there. And what else did we touch upon today? What books we touch upon today? Birth of the Earth and the Matrix, to do the 24 accomplishments that we were supposed to have achieved in the last 24,000. We touched upon that as well. Okay, so appreciate everybody's time today. If you do want more information about who we are, feel free to go to the website and all the W's there. UnitedSapiensWorldwide.com. Interested in joining, there's information about that on there as well. Connect with us obviously on Facebook, and also our YouTube channel. Some useful stuff on their previous classes as well on there, so subscribe and share that where possible. And I say we'll be back in a couple of weeks' time, maybe a different class. I think somebody else is teaching. So I'll get back to this the next time I'm on the rota to teach, and we'll continue this particular subject matter. I was there, which is here. Yeah, so it'll be part 6 that we'll pick up on, and as I say, touch upon those subjects I just mentioned. Okay, appreciate you all and your time for today, and some really good questions. I appreciate that to aid your understanding. And so we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. Take care all. See you soon.